I was originally the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar Wall Street-listed conglomerate, but overnight, my entire body was covered in tattoos. A black dragon on my left arm, a winter ice wolf on my right, a manticore carved into my chest, a great demon god of destruction on my back, Ares, the god of war, on my left buttock, Apollo, the sun god, on my right, the grim reaper on my left leg, the deep-sea leviathan on my right, a lich skeleton tattooed on the back of my left hand, Hades, the lord of the underworld, on the back of my right hand, and right between my eyebrows, a bleeding spear was engraved. This was all because, in this era of global mutation, all animals and plants would mutate. Not only would the usually insignificant ants grow as large as hounds, but even the weeds commonly seen by the roadside would instantly transform into towering man-eating trees, while humans would be reduced to nothing but rations for these mutated creatures. However, some humans with tattoos astonishingly discovered that they had acquired mutation energy. Some who had Spartacus tattooed on them could transform into the god of gladiators and slaughter their way through all directions. Others who tattooed the Viking sea serpent became serpent souls, guarding a side of the city. There was even someone who tattooed a funny Peppa Pig meme and literally turned into a walking piece of roasted bacon. And the previous me, despite being the president of a $100 billion conglomerate, ended up as mutant food simply because my body was clean and completely devoid of tattoos. At this moment, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse apartment, I picked up my phone and made a call. At all costs, invite the world's most elite tattoo master to my house. He can fill in whatever number he wants on the check, but I need to see a living person by 7 p.m. tonight. Hanging up, I made another call to Wade, the general manager in charge of our conglomerate's real estate. By that abandoned super-heavy maximum security prison in the western wilderness of Nova City right now. I'm approving $20 billion for you. If it's not enough, add more. Listen carefully to my demands. The outer walls must be raised to at least 200 meters, poured entirely with military-grade pure reinforced concrete. Whether underground or on the wall surfaces, cover everything with 10-centimeter thick solid titanium steel plates. Above the shelter, pull up a 100,000-volt high-voltage anti-aircraft electrified grid. Dig 50 meters deep underground and build a fully enclosed supply warehouse. Generators, fuel, filtered pure water, various antibiotics, and enough military rations to feed 5,000 people for 3 years. Stuff it all in there. I want you to build an impregnable Doomsday fortress within 50 days. Wade was completely dumbfounded on the other end of the line, stammering and asking if I had gone mad. I didn't bother explaining and just smashed my highest authority clearance over to him. In my past life, hundreds of billions in assets all turned into waste paper. Once the apocalypse arrives, the only hard currencies that hold their value are gold and survival supplies. I decided to immediately package and sell the entire conglomerate at a low price, using the tens of billions in cashed-out funds to sweep up all the spot gold globally. 7 p.m. My female secretary, Sylvia, led a blonde, blue-eyed European old man into the villa's main hall. Boss, this is globally recognized as the #1 person in the tattoo world, Master Anil. Master Anil asked me with a heavy European accent, Mr. Silas, you paid an astronomical price. What exact patterns do you want to tattoo? I took off my shirt, revealing my lean and muscular upper body, and rattled off 10 names in one breath. A black dragon on the left arm, an ice wolf on the right, a manticore on the chest, a great demon god on the back. Carve Ares, the god of war, on my left cheek, and Apollo, the sun god, on my right cheek. Death on the left leg, Leviathan on the right. Add a skeleton to the back of the left hand, and Hades to the right. Right in the center of my brows, carve a bleeding spear. Anil's hand trembled, nearly dropping his toolbox to the floor. Well experienced and knowledgeable, he knew exactly what these patterns represented. Mr. Silas, these all represent fierce gods of utter darkness and destruction. Stacking them all on your body. Aren't you afraid your destiny won't be able to suppress the backlash? I sneered, whether I can suppress it or not is my business. You just need to bring out the highest standard of your entire life and tattoo them as vividly as possible. We stayed up through the entire night. When the last needle pierced my skin, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling mirror, looking at the lifelike fierce god tattoos covering my body. A ferocious and violently oppressive aura rushed at my face. Just to be safe, I forcefully demanded that Sylvia also tattoo a Valkyrie on her arm. Sylvia looked at me as if she were looking at a completely depraved psychopath. A few days later, she submitted her resignation and was immediately poached with a high salary by Liana, the wealthy heiress whose financial group had acquired my company. Want to leave? Feel free. In this impending purgatory era, keeping disobedient people around is a liability. After sending Sylvia away, I called over my life-and-death brother, Hunter. Back when I was kidnapped by a gang, it was this kid who risked his life to take a bullet for me. I revealed the entire truth about the apocalypse to him. Hunter didn't doubt me at all. He howled with excitement. I had him take the 108th Street orphan brothers under his command, who had no attachments whatsoever, and had them all tattoo demonic god marks on their backs. For the next month, I went into seclusion and worked out like crazy. The energy impact at the moment of a divine tattoo's awakening is extremely violent. If the host's physical physical body is too weak, they will explode and die on the spot. In my past life, I saw too many greedy people who tattooed fullback evil dragons, only to be literally burst apart by the power. May 31st, 11:55 p.m. The Western Wilderness Shelter. The steel behemoth, built at a cost of tens of billions, stood tall on the vast wasteland. The 1,200-meter high, 50-meter thick walls were impregnable, and the anti-aircraft electrified grid overhead flickered with lethal blue light. Hunter and I sat on the observation deck, quietly smoking cigars. Hunter stared fixedly at the countdown on his phone screen, his voice trembling. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. Boom! A massive explosion that sounded as if it would tear the Earth apart detonated high up in the heavens. A thick, blood-colored lightning bolt streaked across the sky, instantly bathing the entire hemisphere in blood red. Immediately following that, the bright, pale moon actually turned an eerie dark red. The apocalypse arrived right on time. Hunter let out a tragic scream and slammed straight into the ground. His eyes instantly filled with blood, and he desperately banged his head against the floor. The Hell Panther and Demon King tattoos on his back seemed to come alive, trying to tear through his flesh and burst out of his body. Before I could even check on Hunter's condition, an indescribable, agonizing pain instantly pierced through my brain. I spewed out a mouthful of black blood, my entire body slamming heavily against the wall. 11 violently unparalleled streams of mental energy whipped up monstrous waves in my mind. The black dragon on my left arm roared, the ice wolf howled, the great demon god laughed maniacally, and the grim reaper stared coldly. Every single fierce god was trying to seize control of this physical body. The bones all over my body cracked and popped, shattering inch by inch. The surface of my skin split open with countless terrifying bloody gashes, blood surging out madly. In the blink of an eye, I turned into a bloody mess. The blood spear between my eyebrows grew scalding hot, even cracking my skull open. The power was too violent. The awakening power of 10 immemorial fierce gods was simply not something a human body of flesh and blood could withstand. I felt my life force draining away wildly, and my vision began to blur. Just as I was on the brink of total collapse in this life-or-death crisis, that gray-white mark on the palm of my right hand suddenly erupted with a blinding light. An extremely mysterious, coldly arrogant energy instantly pierced through my entire body and shot straight into my mind. The 11 divine tattoos that had been wreaking havoc just a second ago met this gray light and, like mice meeting a cat, were instantly suppressed into absolute submission, all obediently retreating back to their original positions. I gasped for air and climbed up from the ground. My wounds were healing rapidly at a visible rate. Clenching my fists, a terrifying power that felt as if it could shatter a mountain range with one punch surged through my veins. I didn't die. I survived it. At this moment, the outside of the perimeter wall had already turned into a carnival for monsters. Sandworms and desert rats that were originally the size of fingernails had all grown to the size of wild dogs. Tens of thousands of mutated rat swarms with red eyes crashed madly against our steel walls like lunatics. The sky was completely dyed black. Countless mutated poisonous moths and vultures blotted out the sky, crashing into the high-voltage grid. The crackling sounds of electrocution and the smell of burnt flesh echoed through the night sky. The 108 brothers woke up one after another. Hunter had also survived the impact of his 2 divine tattoos and bounced up from the ground in excitement. Holy shit, boss, I feel like I could punch an armored vehicle to death. With a mere thought from Hunter, an extremely badass Hell Panther battle armor instantly wrapped around his entire body. Then, he activated his second Demon King tattoo. With a boom from his back, a pair of domineering mechanical demon wings spread out, and he launched straight into the air. Go to the armory and grab your weapons. The mutant beasts outside have crystal cores in their heads. Those things can let our divine tattoos continue to evolve. I threw down a cold sentence, my mind churning. The blood spear divine tattoo between my eyebrows glowed with a brilliant red light, and a Tumterlong, fiercely brutal spear radiating blood-red light materialized directly in my hand. Following that, the dark red great demon god armor covered my entire body. The black dragon divine tattoo activated and layered over it. The surface of the armor was immediately covered in pitch-black dragon scales, and the helmet transformed into a hideous black dragon head. An aura of ultimate brutality exploded outward, suppressing the over 100 brothers around me, forcing them to step back repeatedly. Follow me out of the city. Kill. The main gate let out a dull roar as it slowly opened a crack. Outside the gate, densely packed mutated desert rats caught the scent of fresh human flesh and lunged at me like a tidal wave, shrieking. I kicked off the ground fiercely, stomping a massive crater into the earth, and my whole body smashed into the rat swarm like a heavy armor-piercing shell. A horizontal sweep of the blood spear, blinding blood-red lightning exploded from the spear tip. The 6 desert rats charging at the very front didn't even have time to scream before their heads were separated from their bodies. A mutated saber-toothed tiger, a full 2 meters long, lay in ambush on the flank and suddenly opened its bloody maw, biting down toward my neck. Without even turning my head, I delivered a backhand uppercut, smashing heavily into its jaw. With a muffled bang, the saber-toothed tiger's head exploded like a rotten watermelon, spraying blood mixed with brain matter all over me. A milky white crystal core rolled out. With Hunter taking the lead, the 108 demon warriors descended like tigers from a mountain, madly unleashing their newly acquired inhuman strength. These brothers were already ruthless men who licked blood from the edges of knives on the streets. When killing monsters, they were even more brutal than the monsters themselves. The base of the entire wall instantly turned into a meat grinder of flesh and blood. Just as we were reveling in the slaughter, a piercing screech suddenly came from overhead. A mutated carrion vulture, comparable in size to a Boeing passenger jet, circled above the electric grid, its eyes glowing red. It violently opened its sharp beak, and a scorching energy beam blasted fiercely against the anti-aircraft grid. The high-voltage grid shook violently. Hunter watched, dumbfounded. This feathered bastard can shoot laser cannons? This prey is mine. I snorted coldly. Massive mental energy lifted my body, and I shot straight up from the ground, soaring into the clouds. Seeing that I could actually fly, the mutated vulture was so frightened that all its feathers stood on end, and it desperately flapped its wings to flee. As it fled, it turned its head and frantically spat energy beams at me. I didn't even bother dodging, casually swatting the beam apart with a slap. I raised the blood spear in my right hand and hurled it with all my might. The long spear turned into a blood-colored lightning bolt. With a squelch, it tore through the night wind and pierced the vulture's long neck with absolute precision. The massive corpse plummeted onto the wasteland like a kite with a broken string. I dove down, crushed its sternum with one stomp, and dug out a top-grade crystal core the size of a baby's fist from within. An hour later, the tens of thousands of mutant beasts outside the wall had been completely wiped out. The brothers filled dozens of gunny sacks, collecting over 20,000 crystal cores in total. Just as we were preparing to retreat, a bizarre beast roar came from not too far away. Following the sound, a mutated black cat the size of a sedan was sprinting wildly. Clinging desperately to the black cat's back was a young woman wearing hot pants. The black cat slammed on the brakes and stopped in front of us. The woman tumbled down pathetically. I looked closely and realized it was Lexi, the top-tier Twitch streamer famous across the whole internet for her edgy content. Looking at the dismembered mutant beast corpses scattered everywhere and our group of blood-soaked gods of slaughter, she was so terrified that her lips trembled. "Bosses, please take me in. I can do anything, even clean. Please don't chase me away." She crawled and scrambled over, hugging my thigh tightly, crying her eyes out. I looked down at her from above, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Besides begging for donations online, what else can you do? Lexi shuddered all over, tearfully swearing that as soon as the situation stabilized, all the dollars she earned from streaming would be handed over to me. So naive. In the apocalypse, where is there any stable situation? Seeing that her attitude was humble enough, I casually tossed her to Martha, the housekeeper. I don't feed useless people here. If she couldn't do her chores well, she'd be thrown out to feed the wild dogs. On the other side, Sylvia and the wealthy heiress Liana, who had resigned and run away, originally rode mutated pit bulls to seek refuge at my shelter. Who knew that halfway there, an edgy teenager wearing a holy light archangel armor would pop out? That was Liana's younger brother, Lucas. He held extreme contempt for my shelter and forcefully dragged Liana to seek refuge with the military instead. Sylvia felt that following the military was indeed safer, and decisively gave up the idea of coming to find me. Suit themselves. Sooner or later, they would realize that, in this hell, my place was the only absolute safe zone. Returning to the master bedroom, I sat cross-legged on the bed, holding a few crystal cores in each hand, and began to absorb them. Pure energy surged into my meridians through my palms. The 11 divine tattoos greedily devoured this power, and my physical strength climbed steadily once again. At this very moment, what I didn't know was that far away in the capital Apex City, in the highest Pentagon conference room, the top leaders of the military, government, and financial factions were staring solemnly at a large screen. Playing on the screen was a satellite overhead view of the Western Shelter in Nova City. This Silas spent tens of billions to build a fortress months in advance. Could he really predict the future? A military bigwig frowned, preparing to give the order to contact me via the satellite network. But in the next second, the faces of all three bigwigs changed in unison. At the edge of the satellite thermal imaging screen, a scalp-numbing scene appeared. The wasteland 10 miles outside the shelter was undulating violently. That wasn't sand at all. Those were mutated desert army ants, the size of wild dogs, numbering in the hundreds of thousands. They converged into a black torrent of death, rolling majestically and madly crushing toward my shelter. I stood high up, looking down at the dense black swarm of ants outside the city wall, and a cold sneer curled on my lips. With all broadcasting channels wide open, I gave the order to the entire shelter. All personnel assemble at the main gate. Prepare for the harvest. Hunter led 108 brothers clad in demonic armor, standing murderously behind the heavy steel doors. Wade frowned, muttering that the anti-aircraft electric grid consumed too much power. Hunter just slapped him on the shoulder, telling him not to panic and that following the boss meant just focusing on the killing. The female streamer, Lexi, ran over clutching her phone, her face flushed with excitement, saying that her phone suddenly had a signal and had connected to the federal network FedNet. Perfect. I adjusted the cuffs of my black suit, giving instructions without turning my head. Go up to the observation deck and start streaming. Since the government has opened the satellite network, let the whole world see what a real Doomsday fortress looks like. No hiding, no dodging, just a frontal crush. Truth always lies only within the range of cannons and absolute military force. I walked slowly slowly to the steel main gate. As the switch was pressed, the massive iron doors let out a rumbling roar, slowly pulling apart to both sides. Outside, tens of thousands of mutated army ants surged in like a black tsunami. Each one was the size of a wolf dog, its mouth full of fangs, dripping corrosive venom from its mandibles. At the same time, the government actually locked onto my location and forcefully initiated a synchronized live broadcast across the entire internet. Within the 12 underground shelters, 700 million survivors stared fixedly at my solitary back on their screens. Start the slaughter. I let out a low growl, and the Grim Reaper Divine Tattoo and the Lich Skeleton Divine Tattoo ignited simultaneously. Boom! Endless black mist of death erupted madly from within my body. A pitch-black Grim Reaper robe instantly draped over me, and a white bone mask fastened over my face. I grabbed at the void with my right hand, and a Tumterlong Reaper's great scythe tore through the air, landing firmly in my palm. I swung the scythe fiercely, and a deathly black aura tens of meters long swept out like a furious wave. Bang! 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 The over 1,000 army ants charging at the very front didn't even have time to scream before exploding in midair. Shredded flesh mixed with green blood flew everywhere, smashing to the ground like rain, leaving behind only a floor full of milky white crystal cores. Charge with me, I shouted loudly, charging straight into the ant tide. The Grim Reaper's black mist spread close to the ground, leaving no life wherever it passed. Any army ant touched by the mist instantly shriveled and burst. I was like a tireless meat grinder, single-handedly unleashing the momentum of a mighty army. Hunter and the others followed closely behind, raising their alloy battle blades and hacking madly. Wade led 50 people specifically assigned to follow behind and pick up crystal cores. Sack after sack was filled. How was this a monster siege? This was clearly a one-sided assembly line restock. The survivors watching the stream nationwide went completely crazy. The bullet comments on the screen exploded densely. Who is this Grim Reaper boss? Insta-killing 1,000 with one scythe swing? Too fierce. Clearing the field with a casual strike. Is this a god? Right in the midst of the exhilarating slaughter, an earth-shattering roar suddenly erupted from the distant wasteland. The earth shook violently. A terrifying giant ant, comparable in size to a heavy armored vehicle, slowly emerged, stepping on the corpses of its underlings. A Tier 4 peak ant king. Its entire body was covered in black scales that looked like iron lumps. Its two eyes were like blood-red lanterns, staring fixedly at me, carrying an extremely human-like mockery and cruelty. It opened its bloody maw, its thick 6 legs exerting force, and lunged straight at me, seeking death. My eyes turned cold, and I instantly dispelled the Grim Reaper and Lich Divine tattoos. In the next second, the Great Demon God Divine Tattoo, Black Dragon Divine Tattoo, Bloodspear Divine Tattoo, and Ice Wolf Divine Tattoo 4 Mythic Grade Divine Tattoos erupted simultaneously. The red and black interwoven Demon God Dragon armor violently attached to my body. 36 Winter Ice Wolf blades hovered in formation behind my back, their sharp edges piercing to the bone. In my hand, I gripped the lightning-flashing blood spear tightly. My right leg stomped the ground fiercely, instantly blasting a deep crater in the wasteland. My whole body crashed heading toward the Ant King like a heavy armor-piercing shell. The blood spear thrust viciously between the Ant King's giant mandibles. With a loud boom, the violent shockwave sent all the surrounding sand and soil flying. The Ant King's 6 legs shook violently, and from the inner sides of its thighs, 54 half-meter-long bone spikes shot out, stabbing toward me like a meat grinder. At the same time, it spewed a water tank-thick energy beam from its mouth. I raised my left hand, and a black dragon shield instantly formed. Bang! The beam and bone spikes smashed heavily against the shield. The terrifying impact forcefully pushed me back over a dozen meters. Its armor really had some substance. The Ice Wolf blades actually failed to slice open its defenses on the first strike. Truly worthy of a monster that evolved to the Tier 4 peak by eating countless of its own kind. The hearts of the audience across the internet leaped into their throats. The boss got knocked back? Can't beat it? It's over. If even he can't beat this monster, humanity is really doomed. In the capital's highest conference room, the 3 military and political bigwigs were also sweating bullets. According to the classified files in their hands, for a human to activate 2 divine tattoos simultaneously was already the physical limit, putting them at constant risk of exploding and dying. And now, I had actually activated 4, but this wasn't over yet. I shook my numbed left arm, looked at the arrogant Ant King opposite me, and scoffed. It really thought a Tier 4 could jump around in front of me? With a thought, the 5th divine tattoo, Hades, Lord of the Underworld, activate. Boom! An even more violent gray power poured into my entire body. Eerie underworld runes surfaced on the Demon God Dragon armor. From my spine, 2 pitch-black, hideous abyssal nether dragon phantoms suddenly shot out. The twin dragons roared at the heavens, and their tyrannical pressure pierced straight into the clouds. The stream chat completely exploded. Holy shit, 5! He activated 5 divine tattoos. Is he even fucking human? How can he withstand this kind of power? A trace of panic finally flashed in the Ant King's eyes. It frantically shot out 54 bone spikes, attempting to weave a large net to block me. Activating void steps beneath my feet, I instantly bypassed the bone spike net and leaped directly onto the Ant King's back. Shatter! The twin dragons on my back roared and charged lashed out, biting through the sky full of bone spikes in one bite, and with a reverse bite, directly blinded the Ant King's eyes. At the exact same time, with my mental energy fully unleashed, the 36 Winter Ice Wolf blades turned into 36 flashes of lightning, stabbing with absolute precision into the Ant King's most vulnerable rear breathing cavity. I gripped the blood spear with both hands, lightning surging wildly, and aiming at its spinal death acupoint, I pierced it through with one strike. Squelch! The Ant King let out a tragically agonizing scream. Its massive body crashed heavily to the ground, twitched twice, and died completely. Even the bones all over its body were shattered into dust by the blood spear's lightning. I pulled out the long spear and stepped on the Ant King's wildly bleeding corpse. The red, black, and gray tricolor armor dripped with beast blood, with the twin dragons coiling behind my back. I looked just like an unlookable god of slaughter. At this moment, all the shelters nationwide erupted in tsunami-like cheers. The female streamer Lexi jumped up and down excitedly on the observation deck, screaming at the top of her lungs that the boss was invincible. The black dragon phantom on my back left opened its mouth and sucked, pulling a top-grade crystal core the size of a fist out from within the Ant King's body. A Tier 4 crystal core, its energy frighteningly pure. The Ant King was dead, but this swarm of army ants actually hadn't retreated. I looked coldly towards the depths of the wasteland. Looks like there's another one. An extremely sharp hiss came from the end of the horizon. Hearing the sound, the ant tide instantly began to disperse and retreat like a receding tide. Trying to run, with all 4 divine tattoos fully activated, sonic booms shattered the air, and my whole body turned into an afterimage as I chased them down directly. Over 2 sand dunes, an ant queen, slightly smaller than the Ant King, was sticking up its fat ass and fleeing frantically. This thing was at most mid-tier 3. I poured 70% of my power into the blood spear, aimed at its back, and hurled it fiercely. The blood spear turned into a red lightning bolt moving at several times the speed of sound, tearing through the air. The ant queen turned her head, trying to spit a beam to intercept it. The blood spear directly shredded the beam, stabbed into her mouth, and pierced out through her tail, instantly one-shotting her. Digging out the crystal core, I turned and headed back to camp. Upon returning to the front of the shelter gates, the brothers had already packed the crystal cores into dozens of large gunny sacks, piling them up into a small mountain. A rough calculation showed that, in these 8 hours, we had forcefully slaughtered 200,000 to 300,000 ants. A massive profit. Just as I sat down on the sofa in the villa, the satellite phone rang. It was Director Sterling, one of the supreme leaders of the Federation. Mr. Silas, the entire country saw your broadcast slaughtering the Ant King just now. It was simply like a god descending to Earth. The old man started off by kissing my ass. We are preparing to establish a vanguard syndicate, and we'd like to invite you out of the mountains to be the alliance leader, commanding all the divine tattoo awakeners nationwide. What do you think? Not interested. I cut him off unceremoniously. Be the alliance leader? Go wipe the asses and manage the trivial affairs of a bunch of trash every day? I was reborn to dominate, not to be a savior. However, taking this opportunity to score some good stuff was doable. The mutation speed of the beasts far exceeds your imagination. I said coldly, that nuclear fusion protective grid of yours might be able to block monsters below tier 8, but it can only cover 1 city per unit. Don't even think about clearing all the beasts outside before turning on the grid. You'll never finish clearing them. In a few days, those tier 4 and 5 monsters will be eating armor-piercing bullets like beans. Dead silence on the other end of the phone. I directly laid out my conditions. Get me a small nuclear fusion protective grid projection device and deliver it to the west of Nova City. In exchange, you'll have the brothers under me help you safely escort all the survivors from the 8 surrounding cities to my shelter. Alright, deal. Director Sterling agreed with extreme promptness. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. The national situation had barely stabilized. Close to 700 million survivors had all been stuffed into 12 super cities covered by giant energy domes. Humanity's territory had been compressed to the absolute limit. Outside the domes, it had completely become a paradise for mutant beasts. Tier 2 and Tier 3 mutant beasts walked everywhere, and the coastal cities were completely occupied by Thul-hostile octopuses hundreds of meters long and megalodon monsters. Inside the cities, order had completely collapsed. The divine tattoo awakeners who possessed power became the new privileged class. They controlled the large meat processing plants and survival supplies, using 1 can of low-quality rations a day as chips to madly exploit the labor of ordinary people. Anyone who dared to resist was secretly killed, and the government simply couldn't manage it. In my past life, that was exactly how I was played to death. But in this life, I lived in luxury in my western fortress, and the over 150 demon brothers had all been fed massive amounts of crystal cores by me, pushing them to the mid to late stages of Tier 4. My own main combat divine tattoos had surged to the peak of Tier 4. Because I refused to be the alliance leader, the capital turned to Lucas instead. This wealthy young master, relying on the Holy Light Archangel armor tattooed on his back and the Hellfire armor on his chest, had recently been stealing all the limelight. He kept hundreds of divine tattoo underlings, madly hunting mutant beasts outside, and was also a ruthless character running black-blooded sweatshops to exploit exploit commoners inside the city. In order to stabilize the situation, the government desperately needed a capable figurehead, so they internally appointed him as the new alliance leader of the Vanguard Syndicate. At noon on the day the alliance's establishment was announced, the capital's media hall broadcasted it live across the entire internet. Backstage, Lucas, wearing a sharp white suit, sat next to my former secretary, Sylvia, looking completely triumphant. But when he looked down at the bullet comments in the official live stream, his face turned completely green. The entire screen was flooded with, "If the alliance leader isn't Boss Silas, we won't accept it. Protest the Blackheart capitalist Lucas. Where did Boss Silas go?" Right then, one bullet comment instantly ignited the entire internet. Holy shit, Lexi just went live. The title is, "Boss Silas tears a sea monster apart barehanded on the Pacific coast." In just a few seconds, the 200 million viewers in the official live stream dropped until only a pitiful tens of thousands were left. Lucas trembled with anger, smashed a backstage table to pieces with a punch, and cursed me for deliberately crashing his party. Meanwhile, I was leading Hunter, Wade, and 10 other brothers, standing on the howling Pacific West Coast. Holding her equipment, Lexi yelled excitedly into the camera, "Good afternoon, family. Today, my boss is going to slaughter an early Tier 7 ocean overlord and take it home for a barbecue." As soon as she spoke, the ocean's surface exploded. A terrifying abyssal leviathan, nearly 700 meters long and covered in cold, black scales, whipped up a tsunami tens of meters high and broke through the sea's surface. Its massive serpent head was 2 sizes larger than a bus, opening its bloody maw and roaring at the sky. Behind it, tens of thousands of densely packed Tier 3 and 4 giant sea serpents and electric eels followed, making one's scalp tingle. A Tier 7 mutant beast, evolving this fast? Can Boss Silas beat this thing? This is an entity that can tank a nuke. The live stream instantly boiled over. Not only was the Federal Republic watching, but countries across the ocean also forcefully relayed this broadcast. President Cole of that superpower sat in front of a massive screen, biting a cigar, his face full of cold sneers. His country had almost achieved universal awakening of divine tattoos, calling themselves invincible under heaven, and he was now just waiting to see me, the #1 expert of the Eastern continent, make a huge fool of myself by being torn to shreds by the sea monster. "Boss, are you confident?" Hunter gulped as he looked at the sky-blotting monster. "Tier 7? What does that count for?" My tone was calm. My right foot stomped fiercely in the air, and defying the laws of physics, I stepped into the sky, carrying the blood spear and walking step by step toward the abyssal leviathan. When I was less than 100 meters from the sea monster, my mind moved. Hades' domain, open. A dark, eerie gray barrier instantly erupted, covering this area of the sea. Within the domain, all sea beasts were forcefully dropped by one tier. The abyssal leviathan let out a tragic scream, its 700-meter body forcefully shrinking to 200 or 300 meters within the netherworld's black light. The underlings it brought were so terrified they rolled madly in the sea. With one step, I broke the sound barrier, the blood spear exploding with blinding lightning. The sea monster reacted extremely fast, opening its mouth to spit out an energy beam capable of splitting the ocean. I didn't even bother dodging, letting this water tank-thick beam blast directly onto my great demon god armor. As the light dissipated, I stood midair, my defenses completely unbroken. I shook my head coldly. "Tier 6, is this all you've got?" I directly disabled the Hades domain. The abyssal leviathan instantly recovered its Tier 7 peak strength, revealing its ferocious glint. It angrily swung its thick serpent tail, breaking the speed of sound, and whipped viciously toward me with a momentum that could destroy everything. Bang! I raised my left hand, spread my 5 fingers, and without taking a half step back, forcefully caught this world-destroying whip strike. The air exploded into a visible ring of white shockwaves. Suspended in midair, my body didn't even sway in the slightest, single-handedly grabbing a Tier 7 abyssal behemoth. The people watching the stream all over the world were scared silly. The screen full of bullet comments fell dead silent, followed by an eruption of rows upon rows of OMG. "Just this little strength?" I sneered. The twin dragons on my back roared out, biting through the scales on its tail and tearing off a massive chunk of flesh and blood. The sea monster was completely enraged. It actually began burning the top-grade crystal core inside its body. Its massive frame instantly surged to 1,000 meters. It opened its giant mouth and directly unleashed its innate divine ability abyssal gate. 100-meter black deep-sea gate, wrapped in iron chains, appeared out of thin air, erupting with an extremely terrifying devouring force, trying to pull me in and grind me to pieces alive. "You dare burn my top-grade crystal core?" I was thoroughly infuriated. The 3 god-level powers of the great demon god, Black Dragon, and Hades completely merged. 99 god-level halos lit up layer by layer behind me, dazzling to the extreme. Breaking through over 10 times the speed of sound, I turned into a blood-colored lightning bolt. The blood spear in my hand, carrying the most violently extreme lightning, blasted directly onto the abyssal gate. Crack! The supposedly indestructible abyssal gate instantly filled with cracks and shattered with a boom. The sea monster let out a desperate roar. The blood spear, carrying endless lightning, pierced in through the center of its brow, traveled through its entire 1,000-meter-long body, and burst out of its tail. It shattered its spine into a bloody mist along the way. Bang! With one kick, I sent the sea monster's massive corpse flying onto the coast. The remaining tens of thousands of sea beasts were scared out of their wits, frantically turning their heads, trying to escape back into the deep sea. Demon Blood Realm. My icy voice resonated through the sky. A blinding blood-red light erupted from the seabed, and a terrifying illusion of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood enveloped the sea area for over a dozen miles. The supremely evil and wicked power of the demon god completely erupted. Every sea beast illuminated by the blood light didn't even have the chance to struggle before being instantly dissolved into pools of bloody water by the terrifying power. Tens of thousands of sparkling crystal cores instantly floated up on the sea surface, and the entire coast was completely dyed scarlet. In the superpower's highest conference room, the cigar in President Cole's hand dropped straight onto his crotch, burning him so badly he jumped up violently. With a pale face, he roared at his chief of staff. Immediately prepare military rations for 1 million people. Send the Valkyrie Athena to deliver it personally. We must befriend this demon named Silas at all costs. His chief of staff wiped away cold sweat, his voice trembling like a sieve. Mr. President, something terrible has happened. Our satellites just detected, at the bottom of the Atlantic's Bermuda Triangle, an immeasurably terrifying deep-sea monstrosity is awakening. A few hours later, 100 heavy transport planes roared into Nova City's airspace, landing smoothly at my western base. The supremely arrogant Valkyrie Athena, wearing a slit dress, personally escorted enough supplies to feed 2 million people for a year. She respectfully knocked on the door of my villa, her eyes filled with unconcealable fanaticism and a desire to please. Just as I was inspecting the supplies, the press conference in the capital was being broadcast live across the entire internet. The government higher-ups bit the bullet and forcefully promoted Lucas, who possessed the Archangel armor, to become the new alliance leader of the Vanguard Syndicate. Lucas, wearing a sharp white suit, stood under the spotlight, ready to deliver his righteous-sounding inaugural speech. The 200 million viewers across the net gave him absolutely no face. The bullet comments were a sea of curses, instantly flooding the screen. What bullshit alliance leader? Except for Boss Silas, we won't recognize anyone who takes power. Does Lucas, this black-heart capitalist, even deserve this? Get off the stage. Let's go to Lexus Stream to find Boss Silas. In less than a minute, the viewer count in the official live stream emptied out directly. Lucas stood on stage, his face as black as the bottom of a pot, his back molars almost crushed from gritting them so hard. At the same time, in Lexus Stream, the viewer count directly broke through 400 million. The bullet comments were perfectly uniform, all begging me for help. Boss Silas, please save us. We work ourselves to death for over 10 hours a day, and those Divine Tattoo Gang members only give us 1 can of smelly, low-quality rations. If we don't work, we'll starve to death. Begging the boss to seek justice for us. Sitting on the sofa, I exhaled a ring of blue smoke, took Lex's phone, and glanced at the screen full of blood and tears accusations. Under the apocalypse, human lives are cheaper than grass. This privileged class of awakened divine tattoos used ordinary people to death like livestock. In my past life, this was exactly how I was drained alive. Since in this life, I stand at the top of the pyramid, casually setting a rule isn't asking too much. I stared into the camera, my voice devoid of any warmth, yet resounding powerfully. Listen up. From today on, for all factory laborers working 12 hours a day, the treatment must be 3 meals a day, plus 3 high-quality canned meats. If, at the end of the shift today, any factory pays less than this amount, leave an anonymous message on my dark web portal. I will make them pay the price. If any boss dares to intentionally shut down and strike because of this. A cruel arc curled at the corner of my mouth. If I find out, I will leave no one alive. I will slaughter your entire families. As my words fell, the live stream instantly fell into dead silence. Immediately following that, a roof-lifting carnival erupted. Boss Silas is mighty. Did those vampires exploiting us hear what the boss said? From today on, my life belongs to the boss. The 400 million survivors fell into a frenzy. Meanwhile, in the capital's highest conference room, Director Sterling broke into a cold sweat watching the unimaginably domineering me on screen. He quickly picked up the satellite phone to call me, attempting to beg me one last time to take over the alliance. I glanced at the caller ID and hung up directly. I have no interest in playing house with a title like Alliance Leader. I added one more sentence to the camera, but the words I put out are iron laws. Anyone who dares to turn a deaf ear, regardless of their identity, will be killed without mercy. This speech directly pushed over 70% of the nation's underworld oligarchs to the opposing side. The 3 underground giants Falcone, Moretti, and Carmichael. They held the most meat processing plants in the country and kept hundreds of high-tier divine tattoo underlings. My words essentially smashed their rice bowls. The 3 local snakes, infuriated and exasperated, gathered directly to plot. Unable to fight me openly with swords and guns, they actually had a wild idea, secretly flying to South Asia and spending an astronomical price to purchase 3 tactical nukes from the Indus Valley Alliance, planning to charter a private jet to bring them back and detonate them directly over my western base. They thought they did this without anyone knowing. As a result, Prime Minister Sharma of India turned around and sold them out completely. When the call came, Sharma's tone was extremely sycophantic. "Boss Silas, those 3 suicidal fools are already on the plane with the nukes, heading straight for your Nova City International Airport. Do you need me to launch an anti-aircraft missile midway and shoot them down?" I sneered. These 3 wealth-delivering boys really brought a pillow right when I was dozing off. I was just worrying about lacking an excuse to annex their properties, and now it was completely justified. No need. Sell the nukes to them and let them fly back. I said to the Prime Minister, "I will remember this favor." Hanging up the phone, Athena volunteered to go to the airport and suppress them for me. I waved my hand. The people under my command hadn't all died out yet. I didn't need external help. Sitting on the sofa, I gave a light shout. The Wraith, outside the main door of the villa, a chilling, bone-piercing black wind instantly swirled in. As the black energy condensed, a figure wearing a black cloak and a skull mask appeared out of thin air. His entire body radiated an infernal chill as if from hell itself, causing even Athena, who possessed the war god tattoo, to unconsciously step back. This person was an absolute ruthless character through and through. When awakening, he forcefully endured having 4 ancient evil spirits tattooed on his body. A few days ago, he voluntarily came to defect to me, and after I beat him into submission, he became the sharpest assassination blade in my hands. "Boss," the black-robed figure knelt on one knee, his voice hoarse and unpleasant. "Go to Nova City International Airport. After that private jet lands, detain the people along with the nukes." My eyes were ice cold. "I'm going to live stream 1,000 cuts execution on them in front of the whole country. As you command." With a flash of black wind, the figure vanished without a trace. With the hidden threat resolved, it was time to deal with the main targets. I called in Wade, who was in charge of internal affairs, and issued direct attack orders. "Notify Titan and Phoenix. You 3 each take 10 core elites, and respectively go wipe out the headquarters of the Falcon Syndicate, White Star Group, and Carmichael Industries." I lit a cigar, my tone as flat as if saying I was going to the supermarket. "Anyone who resists, kill without mercy. Before sunset today, these 3 major groups must change their surname to Silas." Wade excitedly licked his lips and turned to go to the barracks to dispatch troops. On the tarmac, dozens of heavy armed helicopters roared with their propellers. The number 1 fierce general, Titan, wore a set of heavy black steel armor, radiating a brutal behemoth aura all over. Next to him stood Phoenix, a girl in red wearing a firebird mask, with crimson hellfire constantly dancing around her. The 2 each led 10 fully armed demon divine tattoo warriors, boarding the choppers and lifting off. The helicopter fleet split into 3 paths, like the scythe of the Grim Reaper, diving straight toward the country's 3 first-tier cities. A few hours later, in the capital, the Falcon building, the helicopters ignored air traffic control and hovered directly over the plaza below the building. Titan, leading his 10 brothers, swaggered into the first-floor lobby. The terrifying aura sent the ordinary people in the lobby fleeing wildly in panic. "Giving your boss, Don Falcone, 5 minutes. If he doesn't roll down to see me, he'll slaughter my way up floor by floor." Titan crushed the marble front desk with a stomp, his voice making the glass curtain walls buzz loudly. The elevator doors opened. The mafia boss, Don Falcone, brought his younger brother Enzo and over a dozen Tier 4 peak underlings, walking out murderously. "Silas, people, you push things too far." Falcone's face was livid. The black Hydra Viper armor instantly attached to his body, and 9 wildly dancing black pythons sprouted from his back. His brother Enzo closely followed, erupting with the Ifrit Balrog armor, carrying a flaming long spear. "Submit or die." Titan didn't waste any breath on them. With a flash of black light in his right palm, a giant beast battle halberd, weighing thousands of pounds and carved with ferocious beast runes, appeared out of thin air. "The fish dies or the net breaks. Do you even deserve that?" Titan gave a violent shout, instantly blasting a large crater in the floor. Breaking 5 times the speed of sound, he turned into a black lightning bolt, swinging the heavy halberd and smashing it down from above. The Falcone brothers turned pale with shock, hastily raising their weapons to block. Clang! A deafening explosion of metal. The terrifying power was like Mount Tai crushing down. The Falcone brothers only felt the bones in their arms let out a wail, and their bodies flew backward like kites with broken strings. They continuously crashed through over a dozen reinforced concrete walls, being forcefully blasted from the first floor of the building straight onto the street over 100 meters away. "Kill!" The 10 demon warriors pounced like wolves and tigers upon the Syndicate's underlings. The battle instantly turned into a one-sided slaughter. Demon Blade auras hundreds of feet long shot into the sky, directly cleaving the building's podium in half. In the ruins, Enzo climbed up with a roar, unleashing his ultimate move Balrog's Wild Dance. Waving his long spear, 3 phantoms of the fire-spewing Ifrit roared and pounced at Titan. Behemoth trample. Instead of retreating, Titan advanced, stomping his right foot fiercely. The ground within a radius of several miles collapsed with a boom. A sky-blotting behemoth phantom rose from his back, opening an abyssal maw capable of swallowing the sun and moon. One bite, it directly chewed the 3 Balrogs to pieces. "Die!" Titan instantly instantly flashed in front of Enzo. The heavy halberd, exploding with dark light, smashed fiercely onto the Balrog armor. Crack! The indestructible divine tattoo armor shattered like glass. Enzo's sternum completely caved in, and his entire body smashed into the ground like an artillery shell, creating a giant crater over a dozen meters deep. He died on the spot. Brother. Falcon's eyes looked as if they would tear apart. Black flames emerged all over his body, attempting to burn his divine tattoo for a desperate life-or-death struggle. You don't have the chance. Titan's eyes were cold. Raising the battle halberd with one hand, he aimed at Falcon in midair and hurled it with all his might. The battle halberd tore through the air, letting out a beastly roar. Before Falcon could even ignite his divine tattoo, with a muffled bang, the heavy halberd had already pierced through his chest, carrying his body to nail him firmly and lethally to a thick wall. Blood sprayed wildly. Falcon's internal organs were entirely crushed, leaving him hanging on by a single breath. He stared fixedly at the white figure observing the battle from the roof of a distant building, using his last bit of strength to roar. Lucas, Alliance Leader Lucas, you took my dirty money. If you don't act now, don't blame me for exposing all your shady deals. The new Alliance Leader, Lucas, hiding on the rooftop, heard this threat, and his face instantly turned incredibly venomous. He originally intended to wait for both sides to suffer heavy casualties before coming out to pick up the pieces. He didn't expect the Falcon Syndicate to not even withstand a single move from Titan. If Falcon leaked the scandal of their colluding to amass wealth, his reputation as the newly appointed alliance leader would be completely ruined. Lucas leaped, landing lightly from the roof. He put on a mask, pretending to be a peacemaker, and gave Titan a fake smile. Brother, you must leave room for forgiveness when possible. Give me, Lucas, some face. The Syndicate belongs to you, but spare his life, how about that? Titan pulled out the battle halberd, flicked off the blood, and looked at him like looking at an idiot. What the hell are you? Do you deserve to teach us what to do? A flash of murderous intent passed through the depths of Lucas' eyes, and he couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense anymore. He suddenly raised his hand, his index finger shooting out a scorching archangel beam. Hiss! The beam precisely pierced through the center of Falcon's brows. Falcon's eyes went wide, dying with everlasting grievance, passing away on the spot. Titan sneered aloud. Killing a witness to silence them? This is the so-called new alliance leader? Truly dirty. Lucas' expression didn't change as he casually dropped a sentence. His internal organs were all crushed. He couldn't live anyway. I was just helping him find release. Farewell. Having spoken, he turned into a golden light and fled in a pathetic state. This devastating slaughter was transmitted back to the highest conference room in the capital, second by second via satellite. The three military and political bigwigs looked at the god-slaying Titan on the screen, falling completely silent. Not only in the capital, but when the satellite feed switched to Metropolis, Phoenix, wearing the Firebird mask, was manipulating a sky full of flames, pressing two Tier 5 peak divine tattoo awakeners from Carmichael Industries against the ground and ruthlessly rubbing them out, just as all the higher-ups felt their scalps tingle from the combat power of our faction. On the tarmac of Nova City International Airport, an unmarked private jet had just sliced through the night sky, landing slowly. The three underground giants looked with ferocious expressions at the three cold nuclear warheads on the trolley, their eyes flashing with crazy murderous intent. They had absolutely no idea that in the shadows of the tarmac, a bone-piercingly cold black mist had already silently sealed off all their escape routes. On the tarmac of Nova City International Airport, the night wind was bone-chillingly cold. The three mafia bosses Falcon, Moretti, and Carmichael had just stepped off the private jet, still immersed in the fantasy of using nukes to level my base to the ground. Once those transport planes leave, well, let these three big firecrackers loose, Carmichael sneered viciously. Make it so Silas doesn't even have time to put on his broken armor before being blown to ashes. Let's go have a good meal to celebrate. Moretti straightened his bespoke suit, but they had barely taken 2 steps when a viscous, eerie black mist appeared without warning, blocking their path. The black mist churned, and the wraith's hideous skull mask slowly surfaced. A hoarse, unpleasant laugh suddenly exploded in the ears of the trio. Brought such big firecrackers? Where are you planning to set them off? Falcon's expression changed drastically. Just as his Tier 5 peak divine tattoo was about to light up, the black robe on the wraith whipped fiercely. 8 clusters of black energy, like the giant maws of the abyss, instantly entangled the 8 people tightly, including the 3 bosses. In the face of this bizarre, evil spirit energy, Tier 5 peak strength didn't even have the qualifications to fight back. With a swirl of the black mist, they vanished silently into the night. Not even the workers moving supplies nearby noticed. Half an hour later, Western Base, Central Villa main hall. Thud, thud. The 8 people were thrown onto the carpet like dead dogs. They were emaciated and sallow, over half their lives already sucked dry by the wraith's death aura. I leaned against the sofa, holding a glass of bourbon whiskey, looking down at them from above, wanting to treat me to a mushroom cloud. Can you afford to pay the bill? Hearing the word mushroom, Falcon and the others felt as if they had plunged into an ice cellar, trembling all over like they were electrocuted. They knew the Indus Valley definitely sold them out entirely. Boss Silas, it's a misunderstanding. joking. We bought those nukes to deal with mutant beasts. Even if you lent us 100 guts, we wouldn't dare bomb you. Moretti knelt on the ground, kowtowing so hard it went bang bang. Carmichael even had snot and tears streaming down his face, desperately biting back, accusing the Indian Prime Minister of sowing discord. Right then, the satellite phone I had tossed on the table rang. Director Sterling calling. I pressed speakerphone, my tone playful. Director Sterling, coming to condemn me for my crimes? Titan and the others had just made a massive scene in the Capitol. Him calling at this time couldn't be for anything else. Boss Silas misunderstands. Director Sterling's tone was exceptionally serious. There is an extremely classified matter that I must inform you about. The Boreal Empire's government just contacted us, saying a 6-tattoo awakener has emerged in their country. They want to unite with our federal government to set a trap and kill you. This old fox, just to curry favor with me, directly sold out the Boreal Empire. I chuckled lightly, picked up my glass, and took a sip. Wanting to kill me with 6 tattoos? These old Ivans from the extreme north really think too highly of themselves. And what is your stance? Of course, we refuse. You are the sea-calming pillar of our federal republic. Director Sterling quickly pledged loyalty, but the Boreal Empire's ambition to dominate the globe is glaringly obvious. Sooner or later, they will strike at you from the shadows. You must be careful. The thing I fear least is strikes from the shadows. I lit a cigar, exhaled a puff of blue smoke, my voice bone-chillingly cold. You pass a message to them. If the Boreal Empire dares to provoke me, tomorrow, the territory of the Federation will double. The other end of the phone fell dead silent, followed by Director Sterling's awe-filled response of agreement. I hung up the phone, my gaze returning to the trio kneeling on the floor. These 3 underworld oligarchs, who just moments ago harbored illusions of escaping by a fluke, were now completely in despair. If even a national government faced with an assassination plot had to tip me off, what the hell were they? Falcone's face was ashen, collapsing to the floor. Boss Silas, we are willing to offer up all our industries and tens of billions of dollars in offshore assets, begging you to spare our dog lives. Too late. I had no interest in listening to their nonsense, waving my hand directly to give the order. Wade came in with a few men, dragging them out like dragging dead pigs. Scan their facial irises completely and transfer all the money in their offshore accounts. I instructed without looking back. Then crush every bone in their bodies, chop off their heads, and pin the execution video to the top of the entire internet. I want everyone in the world to know the consequences of provoking me. While I was clearing out domestic tumors, the new alliance leader over in the capital, Lucas, was plotting how to kill me. He had indeed received a top-secret call from Vladimir, the speaker of the Boreal Empire. Lucas, you don't want to be suppressed by Silas forever, do you? We have a max-level 6-tattoo awakener here, and the E-Style Syndicate also has a top-tier 3-tattoo expert. As long as you join with the 3 sides uniting, Silas will certainly die. The young and aggressive Lucas, egged on by his former secretary Sylvia next to him, had his head completely clouded by ambition. Alright, as long as we can kill him, I'm in. Once I upgrade the Archangel armor to tier 6, it will be the day Silas dies. A decapitation alliance composed of experts from 3 nations was thus formed in a dark corner. Only, they didn't know that in the face of an absolute gap in power, no matter how many ants banded together, they were just serving themselves up on a platter for me. After dealing with domestic trivialities, just as I was preparing for closed-door cultivation, the Valkyrie Athena hurried down from upstairs, her face deathly pale. Boss Silas, something terrible has happened. Bay City, across the ocean in our allied nation, has just been attacked by a tier 7 peak sea beast. The city's energy dome is on the verge of collapse. Please lend a hand. I raised an eyebrow. Returning the favor was secondary. A tier 7 peak crystal core was a massive tonic for me to upgrade my divine tattoos right now. Let's go. Decisive and clear-cut, the demon god nether dragon armor instantly attached, and I flew straight to the airport with Athena. Boarding Athena's private jet, I looked at the satellite feed transmitted in real time by President Cole. In the feed, outside Bay City, a black monster nearly 800 meters long, resembling a prehistoric giant turtle, was turning its back to the city and madly shooting energy beams. The dome was tottering under its bombardment. This beast has strong defenses, but as long as I open the Hades domain, ITLL have to kneel. I was calculating how to one-shot it. Suddenly, boom, an earth-shattering roar erupted on the screen. The originally calm sea surface was torn apart, and a terrifying alien titan, standing over 800 meters tall and covered in black barbs, stepped onto the land from the deep sea. The bone spikes on its back flickered with frightening blue light. It didn't even glance at the black turtle. It just slightly opened its bloody maw. Terrifying blue energy compressed madly deep within its throat. Boom! A devastating beam of light, dozens of times thicker than a water tank, spewed forth. With just one strike, the impregnably solid city dome melted instantly like paper. The beam pierced straight through the center of Bay City. A massive mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Half the city was completely flattened in a matter of seconds. Oh my god, Tier 8, this is a Tier 8 Titan behemoth. President Cole on the other side of the screen was so scared he literally peed his pants. Roaring hysterically, Boss Silas, Don't come. Humanity simply cannot stop this kind of monster. A tier 8 crystal core? My eyes instantly became extremely fanatical. Open the cabin door. I roared at Athena. As the door opened just a crack, I fully activated my 4 divine tattoos, turning into a 4-colored stream of light. With the terrifying speed of Mach 15, I forcefully tore through the cloud layer, heading straight for the other side of the ocean. Mr. President, in 10 minutes, detonate an electromagnetic pulse nuclear bomb directly above me. Block all global satellite signals. I coldly gave the order into the communicator. Doesn't the Boreal Empire want to figure out my bottom line? They'll make sure they can't even see the static on the screen. 20 minutes later, breaking the sound barrier with a thunderous roar, I hovered over Bay City like a descending god. On the ground, the Tier 8 alien titan raised its head, its deep blue pupils locking dead onto me. Roar. Without any nonsense, the blue light on its back flashed explosively, and a world-destroying blue beam blasted straight at my face. I sneered, and the 5th divine tattoo lit up. The manticore light disc on my chest instantly spun, and a massive dark golden hexagram array unfolded out of thin air. The energy beam, which was enough to destroy half a city, blasted onto the hexagram array, and unexpectedly, like a clay ox entering the sea, was instantly sucked completely dry. Buzz! My figure flashed, instantly arriving above the behemoth's head. The Hades domain unfolded with a boom, covering a radius of 10 miles. Under the domain's suppression, the behemoth's massive body trembled violently, forcefully shrinking from 800 meters down to just over 700 meters. Just as I was preparing to split its skull with the blood spear, this monster actually opened its mouth and spat out extremely stiff English. Human, you have some skill. I just came up to find some meat, didn't expect to run into a freak like you. Immediately following that, black light surged over its body, and its originally mountain-like gigantic beast body actually shrank rapidly, transforming into a humanoid creature wearing black spiked armor. Moreover, after turning into a humanoid form, it actually became completely immune to the domain's suppression. Alien biology? I narrowed my eyes. You guessed right. It cracked its neck, its tone full of the arrogance and mockery of a higher species. We come from planet Tartarus. Your planet is truly beautiful. 2 years from now, our clan's Tier 11 planetary destroyer will descend. It flipped its palms, and 2 black chakrams overflowing with brutal energy appeared out of thin air. As for you, fresh meat, are you ready to die? 2 years? It won't take that long. Within half a year, I'll personally go to your nest and butcher that Tier 11 piece of trash. Murderous intent flashed explosively in my eyes, and 99 god-level halos lit up with a boom behind my back. Bang! The air was stomped into an explosion. I clashed fiercely with this alien creature at an altitude of 10,000 meters. The blood spear and chakrams bombarded each other madly. The blade auras and lightning that tore the air completely shredded the cloud layer above Bay City. The slaughter, breaking over 10 times the speed of sound, appeared to the people on the ground as nothing but constant collisions of dazzling lightning capable of destroying the world. The moment an energy sphere exploded in my face, I fiercely activated the powers of the great demon god and Hades within the armor. The black dragon behind me roared and broke through the air, shattering that blinding deep blue light in one bite, taking the opportunity to bite down dead hard on the black chakram in its hand. Get the hell lost! I shouted violently. Carrying the blood spear interwoven with lightning, I instantly arrived at its face. 4-colored lightning exploded at the spear tip, and a move named Blood Hell Void Piercing Strike smashed down with a boom. With a cracking explosion, large swaths of the armor on its chest shattered, and it smashed towards the ground like a fired cannonball. Beat a drowning dog. Without hesitation, I dove in pursuit. The twin dragons on my back turned into black lightning, biting down on its left and right shoulders simultaneously, nailing it firmly in midair. This Tier 8 alien creature was getting desperate. Its eyes turned completely red, roaring hysterically. Abyss Hell's Judgment Hammer, along with its roar, endless black light exploded behind it, and a massive black hole vortex burning with hellfire appeared out of thin air. The power of the abyss surged mightily, and 100 Zangtal Hell War Hammer swept out violently from the black hole. This thing, carrying the ferocious might to destroy heaven and earth, locked directly onto me. The divine tattoo awakeners watching the battle below were all numb. If this hammer smashed into the ground, destroying a city would absolutely lack any suspense. I was deadlocked by an eerie power mid-dive, my body completely unable to move. The threat of death rushed at my face, but there wasn't a trace of fear in my eyes, only a deadwater-like calmness. I stared at the giant hammer smashing toward my face and softly spat out 2 words: Demon, Crest, Buzz. In an instant, my armor and the blood spear in my hand didn't change shape, but instantly turned to dead, pure black. The restriction was lifted immediately. Boom! My entire Bodis aura skyrocketed, instantly multiplying by 30 times. Dark matter demon crests that looked like squirming living creatures surfaced on the armor. An absolute darkness of brutality, bloodlust, and heaven-shaking slaughter poured out, causing the surrounding void to burn and distort severely. This was just the tip of the iceberg of the power of the Tier 2 hidden divine tattoo primordial demon god, Erebus. The moment the giant hammer hit my face, I vanished into thin air. Squelch! The alien leader's eyes widened abruptly, letting out a tragic scream. A pure black abyssal demon spear had stabbed straight through from its back, completely piercing its heart, madly grinding away its life force. You How could you possibly break free from the absolute restraint? It roared in despair. What a tier 10 superstar level couldn't even do, I had done. I stood behind it, silently aloof, slowly pulling out the demon spear. I thrust a single hand into its body and forcefully dug out a deep blue crystal core the size of a rice bowl. Its massive body lost its life force, reverting back to its 800 meter main body and plummeting. Right at this moment, something bizarre happened. That weird mark on the palm of my right hand suddenly grew scalding hot. A terrifying suction force exploded, and its massive 800 meter corpse was actually sucked directly into my palm. Before I could think further, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of that tier 7 black turtle desperately trying to flee into the sea in the distance. Trying to run, I snorted lightly and hurled the demon spear backhanded. The black spear turned into a streak of light piercing through the horizon. A pitch-black mushroom cloud exploded directly on the black turtle as it was about to dive into the seawater. Dark matter surged to the heavens, obscuring the sky. A bottomless crater was blasted into the ocean, and seawater poured in madly. The black turtle was instantly blown to ashes, and a crystal core automatically flew back into my hand. After consecutively killing 2 high-tier mutant beasts, my body swayed, and I coughed up a large mouthful of blood. My body was too weak. Activating the primordial demon crest caused a backlash. Just as I was preparing to retreat, my sea of consciousness shook violently. Floating quietly inside my brain was actually an alien titan divine tattoo. Ignoring the severe pain of the backlash, I triggered it with a thought. With a hum, the tier 8 alien spiked armor from just now covered my body directly. I dispelled the armor, sneering in a low voice. Can directly steal other people's divine tattoos? Interesting. This palm mark is quite perverted. Not long after I evacuated, a terrifying armor descended upon the sea horizon. The Boreal Empire's #1 powerhouse, the war god Valerie. Winter blizzards and lightning flowed around his entire body, and a pair of necromantic black wings sprouted from his back. He looked at the completely destroyed ruins of Bay City, his face turning incredibly gloomy. A battle capable of destroying a city was at least tier 7. He felt a deep sense of urgency, making up his mind to not come out of seclusion until he upgraded to tier 7. This Valerie actually had 6 top-tier divine tattoos carved on his body: Storm God, Thunder God, and even the Lich King divine tattoo that could bring him back from the dead. However, he didn't know that my palm mark could steal divine tattoos. If he dared to provoke me, his Lich King divine tattoo would quickly be pulled out for me to wear myself. I returned to my villa in the capital to heal. The way Athena and President Cole looked at me completely changed. Athena crazily hinted that she wanted me to stay the night, but I had absolutely no interest in her, simply dropping the sentence and going into closed-door cultivation for 4 months, breaking through the air to fly back to my western base back home, plunging headlong into the isolation room. While I was in seclusion, storms were brewing in the capital. Lucas received a mysterious phone call at his home. The other party opened with, "Alliance leader Lucas, how about teaming up to kill Silas?" Lucas was intrigued and directly went to the top-tier private room at the Empire Hotel for the meeting. 3 people were sitting in the room. The leading young man had white hair and a lightning divine tattoo at the corner of his eye. He was the ruthless mastermind behind the scenes, Orion. Beside him sat a blue-haired girl and a burly bald man. Lucas sat down, probing with a cold sneer. "Just relying on you guys, you want to kill Silas?" Orion didn't talk any nonsense. He directly blasted his shirt open. Carved on his chest was the Phoenix, and on his back was tattooed 6 hell horses pulling the Doomsday chariot. Lifelike, the terrifying pressure instantly swept through the entire room. Lucas' eyes lit up, and the contempt in his heart was swept clean. Doomsday chariot plus the immortal Phoenix. This was absolutely a top-tier ruthless man. Orion lit a cigarette, his eyes venomous. "Silas cut off my route to wealth. He must die. I know your Archangel armor has infinite potential, but until you reach tier 13 and completely awaken, you have no chance of winning a Onion. Only by joining forces do we have full confidence." Lucas also laughed. "Perfect, I also know a fierce guy. The Boreal Empire's war god Valerie, a 6-tattoo powerhouse. With the 3 of us joining forces, Silas will definitely die." A few individuals harboring their own ulterior motives hit it off instantly and began plotting an assassination plan. Over these few months, the global landscape underwent massive changes. A unified global currency, Star Credit, was issued. Orion's White Star Group, along with Lucas Vanguard Syndicate, took the opportunity to profiteer from the national disaster, inflating the prices of grain and canned food to astronomical levels. The survivors were suffering unspeakably. The government was furious. Director Sterling ran to Lucas' office, slamming the desk until the heavens shook, pointing at the nose of his deputy Sylvia and cursing. "If the grain prices don't drop today, your Vanguard Syndicate can get the hell out. They'll have Silas forces take over." Sylvia acted subservient on the surface, but secretly notified the Blackheart merchants in a private group chat. "Everyone, close your doors and stop selling. Let those poor ghosts starve to death. When Silas' small food reserve runs out and he gets dragged to death, we'll take ours out and earn double." These idiots thought they could manipulate everyone. They simply didn't know that I had already arranged everything before going into seclusion. We utilized transnational channels, and a massive amount of fairly priced military supplies flooded the market like crazy. However much you wanted, I had, completely blocking off all the routes for the Blackheart merchants. Director Sterling saw through my plan and laughed out loud directly. To thank me, he delivered a top-secret federal mutant to me, the mutated National Guardian Biasta North American giant grizzly, codenamed Goliath. In the ruins of a certain city, a 300-metal berserk armored giant bear was pressing an equally sized Tier 8 octopus against the ground and rubbing it out. Goliath's gray fur stood up like steel spikes all over its body, and with a roar of fury, it sent the surrounding sea beasts fleeing madly in terror. It opened its bloody maw, bit off the octopus tentacles in one bite, grabbed the remaining part with both hands, and smashed it against the buildings crazily like swinging a leather whip. Amidst rumbling crashes, the Tier 8 monster was literally smashed into meat paste. Fight finished, Goliath sat down on its butt, expertly digging out the crystal core and tossing it into its mouth. Federal agent Emily escorted Goliath to my base. Our Vanguard captain, Rainer, came out to receive it, and seeing this mountain of meat and god of slaughter, his eyes went straight. Its massive body almost couldn't fit through the main gate. This was a national ultimate weapon with Tier 7 strength. From now on, it would be my gatekeeping divine beast. Wade took over Goliath, and Rainer reported to Wade in a low voice, "Brother Wade, we've been targeted by a group of people, secretly surveilling us the whole time." Wade sneered, "The boss is in closed-door cultivation. Notify the squads going outside to be careful. If someone really dares to make a move, they are courting their own destruction." At noon the next day, the government directly held a press conference, throwing down a royal flush. First, the entire internet only recognized the 3 major groups under Silas' command as legally selling grain. Anyone privately selling grain at high prices would be shot directly. Second, the Vanguard Syndicate was completely dissolved. This time, Orion and Lucas were entirely dumbfounded. The sky-high priced grain hoarded in their hands had all turned into waste paper. At the same time, deep in the Pacific Ocean, a mysterious azure meteorite crashed into the seabed. The meteorite emitted peculiar energy fluctuations, attracting countless sea beasts. Marine life was about to usher in a terrifying wave of mutation. Time flashed by. In a villa in the wealthy district, the door to the cultivation room slowly pushed open. Lucas, exuding a terrifying Tier 7 latestage aura, walked out with a look of extreme triumph. Sylvia hurried up to complain. "Lucas, the alliance has been dissolved. The government only recognizes Silas selling grain. We've been screwed over completely." Lucas was so angry his face turned green, gnashing his teeth. "Damn it, contact Orion and Valerie immediately. Silas must die." These words were overheard by his passing older sister, Elena. Her heart skipped a beat, and she grabbed Lucas. "What did you say? You're going to kill Silas?" Lucas thought his sister was worried about his safety and smiled triumphantly. "Sis, don't worry. I've allied with 2 of the world's top fierce men. Silas will definitely die." Elena panicked, staring dead at him. "I forbid you from going. If you go, they'll take my daughter and run away from home right now." She knew perfectly well in her heart that provoking me was akin to thinking one had lived too long. Since childhood, Lucas didn't dare lie to his sister, so he pretended to compromise. Okay, I won't go." Turning his head and entering the room, he immediately pulled out his phone to call the other 2. Empire Hotel, 3 p.m. We strike. Murderous intent was fully revealed in Lucas' eyes. At 2:50 p.m., these 3 current strongest combat forces on the global surface gathered in the top-tier private room of the Empire Hotel. Orion, Lucas, Valerie, these 3 entities who were virtually invincible at the current stage finally converged. Orion exhaled a smoke ring, his eyes venomous. Charging his main base directly is unrealistic. I've checked. There's a Tier 7 grizzly guarding it. I've already sent a squad to the Western Province to ambush Vanguard Captain Rainer's team. Cripple a few, let one escape to report back. I don't believe Silas can sit still. Lucas sneered in agreement. Good strategy. When Silas leaves his base, the 3 of us will strike with all our might and send him on his way directly. From now on, this planet will be our say. The boreal war god Valerie puffed his cigar without speaking, but in his heart, he was calculating how to casually finish off these 2 teammates after killing me. The 3 men, each harboring their own dark designs, clinked glasses, directly blasted their clothes open, soared into the sky, and turned into 3 world-destroying streaks of light heading straight for the battlefield. Western Province, Oblivion Ruins. A mutated tree ant, standing 800 meters tall, wildly swung its branches, which were hundreds of meters long, smashing the surrounding buildings to dust like steel whips. This was a mid-tier 8 giant plant monster. Vanguard Captain Rainer led 9 demon warriors, shuttling madly through the sky full of vines. Despite Rainer's usual low profile, he had been cultivating relentlessly to the death. He was now at early Tier 7, and the divine tattoos on his body had evolved into Anubis, judge of the underworld. Rainer, clad in dark red, hideous jackal-headed armor, turned into an afterimage and instantly cut to within 3 meters of the giant tree's main body. Purgatory Death Light Judgment. The judge's death light scepter in Rainer's hand surged with bloodlight, carrying the roars of evil spirits from the underworld that shook the clouds. A brutal beam blasted through the air, piercing viciously through the main trunk of the giant tree. The beam that pierced through was overwhelmingly destructive, directly blasting blasting a deep abyssal trench for over a dozen miles behind it. The Tier 8 giant tree crashed down with a boom. He had just dug out the Tier 8 crystal core when he suddenly felt an extremely scorching murderous intent approaching. Raynor whipped his head around, his eyes instantly turning icy cold. On the ruins in the distance, 20 figures slowly surfaced. The leading blue-haired girl sneered, her body instantly covered in the hideous and terrifying Balrog armor. The terrifying scorching heat wave instantly baked the surrounding air until it twisted and deformed. Vanguard Captain Raynor glared with wide eyes. The rats that had been staring from the dark for months had finally shown their heads. Scatter, run if you can. Raynor roared hoarsely, taking the lead to turn into an afterimage and shoot into the sky. The 9 demon warriors behind him didn't hesitate at all, immediately scattering and fleeing in all directions. Not a single one of you is getting away. The burly man Kyle, clad in the rock fiend armor, laughed maniacally, lifting a giant battle axe and taking a step forward. The axe gleam split the sky, instantly cleaving a Tier 6 demon warrior into 2 halves. Hearing the tragic screams of his own brothers behind him, Raynor's eyes turned completely red. He forcefully ignited his own divine tattoos, madly squeezing his life force, and his speed skyrocketed instantly. He only had one thought in his mind. Even if he had to risk his life, he had to bring the news back to the base and hand it to me. Just at the exact moment he was about to rush out of the encirclement, a terrifying pressure akin to an archangel descending crashed down with a boom. Trying to run? If you run, how will I lure Silas out? Lucas, clad in the resplendently golden holy light archangel armor, smashed the air with a punch, slamming heavily into Raynor's chest. Raynor spewed blood wildly. The Anubis armor shattered inch by inch, and his whole person smashed into the ruins like a kite with a broken string. Orion and the Boreal Empire's #1 powerhouse Valkyrie landed closely behind. The 3 of them deliberately held back their killing moves, watching helplessly as the last demon warrior, Leo, burned his divine tattoos and fled toward Nova City without looking back. The prey has gone to report. Well, just sit right here and wait for Silas to come seeking death. Lucas stomped his foot on Raynor's head, smiling with extreme venom. 20 minutes later, in the western wilderness of Nova City, my Doomsday base, Leo was like a falling meteor, smashing heavily onto the base plaza. He was covered in blood, his divine tattoos completely burned out, reduced to a cripple. Kneeling on the ground, he sobbed uncontrollably, roaring at the sky. Captain Raynor was suppressed. All the brothers are dead, begging the boss to take action and save him. This desperate roar instantly ignited the fury of the entire base. Titan, who had just broken through to Tier 7 peak, shot up from the ground, his eyes dripping blood red. Who dares touch our people? Seeking death. Phoenix, wearing a mask, followed closely behind, killing intent boiling over. Slaughter their entire families. The 2 simply couldn't wait to report, turning into 2 streams of light and charging directly out of the base. The Wraith didn't say a word, turning into a cloud of black mist and quietly following. And at this moment, I was locked dead inside the absolutely soundproof underground cultivation room. I was experiencing true hell. My body felt like red-hot branding iron, my blood boiling like magma. Holding my head with both hands, I bit my teeth dead hard, low beastly growls emanating from my throat. It hurt too much. I was trying to evolve all 9 great divine tattoos on my body to the Tier 7 Emperor grade all at once. The Great Demon God Divine Tattoo had successfully transformed into the Primordial Great Demon God, and now it was the Black Dragon Divine Tattoo's turn to go berserk. This intense pain of having the soul ripped alive and the flesh crushed inch by inch was simply not something humans could endure. Outside the door, Lexi slammed desperately on the heavy metal door. Boss, something's happened. Raynor's squad was wiped out, and Titan and Phoenix have already gone to save him. Hearing that my own brothers had been killed, the brutal emotions in my brain completely exploded. I want die. I roared wildly, fiercely kicking the heavy door open. Lexi looked at my terrifying appearance of me, whole body crimson, veins bulging, and retreated 2 steps in fear, suppressing the world-destroying agony in my mind. I grabbed with one hand, directly pulling out that Tier 8 Alien Titan Behemoth divine tattoo I had seized earlier from my sea of consciousness, and pointed a finger at the center of Lex's brows. Boom! Violent power instantly washed through her entire body. The Alien Behemoth's mark was deeply branded on her collarbone. She awakened instantly, perfectly fusing with the Tier 8 divine tattoo. Chase after them. Keep an eye on them. My voice was hoarse, killing intent surging to the sky. I slammed the door shut, continuing to brave the risk of exploding to death, forcefully pushing the palm mark to accelerate the evolution of my full encyclopedia, Divine Tattoos. Oblivion Ruins. Titan descended from the sky like a demon god. The armor on his body had already evolved into the Berserk Behemoth King armor, with 2 sharp bone spikes protruding from his chest. His brutal aura directly crushed the surrounding buildings. That blue-haired girl wearing the Balrog armor sneered, foolishly gripping a burning dagger and charging up. Silas didn't come, so here comes someone seeking death. And Titan didn't even reveal his weapon. He violently waved his large hand, and terrifying compressive force instantly drained the surrounding air. Bang! Before the blue-haired girl could react, her neck was already deadlocked in Titan's grip. Her proud Balrog armor exploded and shattered like paper. With just this bit of strength, you dare kill my brothers? Titan's wrist exerted force, and with a crack, he directly snapped her neck, tossing her corpse onto the ground like garbage. Sister, Orion, hiding in the dark, had his eyes tear open with rage, going berserk on the spot. His clothes ripped apart all over his body. The immortal Phoenix Divine tattoo on his chest, and the 6 hell horses pulling the Doomsday Chariot Divine tattoo on his back simultaneously erupted with blinding divine light. 6 nightmare war horses burning with hellfire neighed and ascended to the sky. Holding a flaming long spear, he turned into a firebird of destruction. Dozens of Zhang Long, pouncing straight at Titan with world-destroying power. Titan roared at the sky, summoning his heavy halberd, directly turning into an immemorial behemoth to meet the collision heaton. The two collided with a boom at an altitude of 10,000 meters, and the violent energy storm completely flattened the ruins within a radius of over a dozen miles. Phoenix, who had been observing the battle and was just about to provide support, suddenly saw a massive holy light magic array surface in the void. Die! Lucas, hiding in the shadows, directly activated the Archangel Armor's holy light purification ray, blasting it ruthlessly and viciously onto Phoenix's back. Completely defenseless, Phoenix sprayed a mouthful of fresh blood, her whole person smashing into an earth crater like a meteor, her armor shattering on the spot. Lucas descended from the sky, stomped heavily on Phoenix's chest, raised the holy sword of divine judgment, and stabbed down toward her heart. Buzz! At the exact nick of time, for pitch-black evil spirit long spears violently thrust out from behind Lucas, blasting him directly over 100 meters away. The Wraith had struck. At the same time, Lexi, wearing the Tier 8 Titan behemoth armor, descended onto the battlefield, grabbing the heavily injured and dying Raynor over her shoulder. The Wraith turned into a sky-blotting cloud of black mist, swept up the heavily injured Phoenix and the bitterly fighting Titan, and instantly fled far away. Today, I will definitely slaughter your entire families. Orion's eyes dripped blood, going mad as he tried to pursue. Stop chasing! Valerie, who had never made a move, suddenly roared. Look toward the Crimson Triangle. The three whipped their heads around. They saw in the distant Crimson Triangle area, the earth tore apart, and a futuristic high-tech city enveloped in a light purple energy curtain abruptly broke out of the ground. Above the city floated a planetary ring orbit, and densely packed half-beastmen were madly surging toward it. An ancient alien ruin has appeared. Valerie's eyes shone brightly. In the face of absolute fortune, seeking revenge was simply not worth mentioning. The three immediately changed direction, turning into streams of light and heading straight for the Crimson Triangle. While the various factions were attracted by the ancient ruin, in a dark alley in the capital, another conspiracy targeting me was brewing. Sylvia, the former secretary who had just left the Vanguard Syndicate, was stopped by a mysterious figure entirely wrapped in a black robe. You want to kill Silas? Relying on trash like Lucas is absolutely impossible. The black-robed person's voice was hoarse, revealing an eerie aura that did not belong to Earth. He came from the Void Warlocks. Sylvia retreated warily. Can you kill him? The black-robed person sneered, flicked a finger, and a blood-colored curse mark resembling a coiled viper drifted toward Sylvia. Place this on Liana's daughter. As long as Silas gets within 2 meters of that little girl, this soul annihilation curse mark will detonate directly, instantly erasing his soul. Even a holy light archangel wouldn't be able to block it. Sylvia's face was full of astonishment. Lily, Liana's sister Elena's daughter, is actually Silas' seed? A trace of vicious gratification flashed through her eyes. She grabbed the mark and turned, blending into the night. These pieces of trash were still pulling these underhanded tricks behind my back. They simply had no idea what kind of monster they were facing. Western base. Boom! 9 streams of distinctly colored, violently peerless evil light crashed through the villa roof with a boom, turning into screeching light pillars that pierced straight through the atmosphere. The terrifying pressure instantly swept through the entire city, causing all divine tattoo awakeners to feel their breathing stop and their legs turn to jelly. The door to the closed-door cultivation room opened slowly without any wind. I walked out, my lean and muscular upper body bare. The 9 great divine tattoos on my body had completely finished mutating, all advancing to Emperor grade. Every single totem emitted a soul-snatching demonic light, as if living immemorial fierce gods were lying dormant and breathing beneath my muscles. Even the corners of my eyes now had 2 gray dark matter demon crests, giving my entire person an aura of absolute dominance and intolerably arrogant, terrifying demonic nature. In the living room, the smell of blood was pungent. Phoenix lay on the sofa, her face deathly pale. Titan's armor was damaged, covered in blood. Raynor's divine tattoos were exhausted, and he had fallen into a deep coma, looking like a dead man. I walked up to Raynor and used my mental energy to probe him. He won't die. They'll get him a new divine tattoo later, and hell wake up. My voice was cold enough to drop ice dregs. I casually threw on a black trench coat and strode out of the villa. On the plaza outside the villa, 68 core Deathsworn had already assembled. All clad in black suits, standing bolt upright, the eyes of every single person burned with man-eating fury. My profound gaze swept across the audience, and I only said one sentence. I am a man who doesn't talk nonsense. Whoever dares to touch our people, I will slaughter their entire family, young and old. Kill! The 68 Deathsworn simultaneously drew their weapons, their killing intent piercing the clouds. I directly dialed Federal Defense Minister Director Sterling's phone. Where is Lucas? On the other end of the phone, Sterling's voice was dry. He and those two experts went to the ancient ruin in the Crimson Triangle. Boss Silas, what are you going to do? I sneered, my tone leaving no room for doubt. Use military satellites to lock onto the Vance family, Lucas family in the capital. Live stream the upcoming scenes globally for me. After speaking, I crushed the phone directly and turned to look at Titan. Titan, take everyone to the Vance family in the capital. Dig 3 feet deep, and as long as they are related to the Vance family, capture every single one of them, leaving no one behind. Anyone who dares to resist, kill on the spot. As you command, Titan roared wildly, leading the 68 Deathsworn into a sky-filling black shadow, aggressively diving straight toward the capital. As for me, I had more important things to do. With 9 Emperor-grade divine tattoos added to my body, ordinary methods of travel were too slow. I needed an absolutely domineering mount. My mind moved, and the Black Dragon Emperor armor instantly attached. Behind my back, 2 materialized giant black dragons coiled and roared. My whole person turned into a black lightning bolt, instantly tearing through the sound barrier, heading straight for the Rockies. The towering Rocky Mountains were deadlocked in thick clouds and mist, emitting an aura of eternal deathly stillness. I descended into the sky above the main peak like a demon god. The twin black dragons on my back stared dead at the unfathomable sea of clouds below, violently opening their bloody maws and letting out a mad roar that shattered the clouds. Roar! A second later, an even more violent response came from deep within the mountain range. Rumble! The entire mountain range trembled violently, and the clouds and mist were forcefully torn apart by a brute force. An ancient red dragon, 1,000 meters long, shot into the sky. Its entire body was covered in interwoven dark red, hard dragon scales, its massive body coiled in the clouds like a steel great wall. The hideous dragon head exuded endless pressure of destruction, and a pair of sky-blotting dragon wings flapped against the air, whipping up a hurricane. The 1,000-meter red dragon coiled above the Rockies. Its giant, magma-like dragon pupils locked dead onto me, clad in the Black Dragon Emperor armor. It fiercely opened its abyssal giant mouth, letting out a deafening roar. Violent sound waves tore through the cloud layer. Suspended in midair, I expressionlessly watched this Tier 8 mutant beast. Come with me and be my mount, how about it? I spoke flatly. The red dragon was enraged by my attitude. Its dragon body rolled madly, carrying the terrifying momentum of collapsing mountains, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it lunged to kill me. Giving you face, but you don't want it. Then it'll loosen your bones first. I sneered, and my figure vanished into thin air in mid-flight. Before the sonic boom even sounded, I had already flashed right in front of the giant dragon head. I didn't use any flashy moves. I merely raised my fist and smashed it down without reservation. Boom! Heaven-shaking fist power erupted instantly. The 1,000-meter-long western dragon let out a tragic, agonizing wail. Its massive body was directly smashed down from the clouds like a lizard, continuously crashing down several mountain peaks before stopping. I instantly descended onto its head, looking down at it from high above. If you don't come with me today, there is only the path to death. This beast actually had some hard bones. It raised its dragon head and fiercely spat out a mouthful of purgatory dragon breath capable of melting steel, completely submerging me. When the light dissipated, I stood where I was, the Black Dragon Emperor armor without even a single scratch. Forget it, keeping you is useless anyway. It just so happens I've never eaten red dragon meat. I slowly raised my hand, and sky-filling black light exploded. Innumerable Black Dragon Emperor seals locked down all the surrounding space like a rainstorm. The true dragon finally felt the terror of death and lowered its head, whimpering. But I didn't give it a chance. As soon as it lowered its head, it violently opened its mouth again to spit dragon breath. A beast is just a beast. I stopped talking nonsense and violently clenched my 5 fingers. The sky-filling dragon seals detonated instantly, and violent energy exploded in the Rocky Mountains like nuclear bombs. I dashed out from the firelight of the explosion. Floating behind me were 7 football-sized dragon crystals. This stuff was a massive tonic, perfect for my twin black dragons to eat clean. After absorbing the dragon crystals, my Black Dragon Emperor tattoo directly surged from early Tier 7 to Tier 7 peak. 3 p.m. Capital. On the lawn outside the Vance family manor, a dense crowd of people knelt in a dark mass. 76 direct descendants of the Vance family were firmly pressed against the ground by my subordinates, shaking like sieves. High in the sky, I reclined sideways on the Azura throne formed by dark energy, coldly looking down at this flock of lambs awaiting slaughter. Not far away, her best friend Chloe was shielding the 2 sisters, Elena and Liana. In her arms, she held a 3-year-old little girl Lily. The little girl was crying loudly from fright, burying her head tightly in Elena's embrace. Right at this moment, at entrance 2 of the ancient ruin in the Crimson Triangle, the government utilized military satellites to project the live feed of my purging of the Vance family in real time onto a light curtain 10,000 meters in the sky. Over 10,000 top-tier divine tattoo awakeners worldwide simultaneously witnessed this slaughter. Lucas and Orion were standing on a hilltop in the Triangle area, watching their clan members being trampled underfoot in the projection. Their eyeballs nearly popped out, bleeding. Lucas, Orion, and that trash from the Boreal Empire. My icy voice echoed through the satellite amplification, resounding across the entire Crimson Triangle area. I give you 10 minutes. If you aren't here in 10 minutes, I will execute one of your clan members every minute. Silas, you're courting death. Lucas and Orion went completely insane. The two turned into streams of light, desperately killing their way back to the capital regardless of everything. As for Valerie of the Boreal Empire, he had long been scared out of his wits by the methods I just used to brutally kill the Red Dragon. He cowered in place, not even daring to move. Lucas had just landed. Before he could even shout, I had already instantly vanished from the throne. Slap! An ice-cold hand deadlocked onto his neck. With my left hand choking Lucas, my right hand curled into a fist and smashed viciously into his chest. With a deafening explosion, the holy light archangel armor on his body, claimed to be invincible, shattered inch by inch. Lucas sprayed a mouthful of fresh blood, his face full of disbelief. How is it possible? How could you be so strong? I didn't even bother looking at him. With a backhand slap, I shattered every bone in his body and smashed him in front of the Vance family crowd like throwing a dead dog. The Archangel armor worn by a piece of trash like you really lowers its value. Your turn. I turned to look at Orion, who was already covered in cold sweat. Orion let out a beastly roar, directly unleashing his ultimate killing move, Doomsday Chariot, Abyssal Trample. 6 nightmare giant horses burning with hellfire broke out of his body. A bronze chariot hundreds of meters long surfaced above his head, rolling toward me with the momentum to suppress everything. Petty tricks. I didn't even move. The 2 black dragons behind me let out heaven-shaking roars. The left black dragon turned into black lightning, chewing those 6 hell nightmares to pieces in one bite. The right black dragon shot into the sky, blasting that doomsday chariot to pieces with a single breath of dragon fire. Impossible. Orion was in complete despair. The left black dragon's momentum remained undiminished, biting off his head in one bite. Before the corpse hit the ground, the immortal phoenix divine tattoo on Orion's chest lit up, and his head actually grew back. He possessed a resurrection divine tattoo. The newly resurrected Orion completely broke down, pleading madly to me in midair. Big boss, spare my life. It'll be your dog. Please don't kill me. I looked at him expressionlessly. The right black dragon shot out like lightning, once again tearing him to pieces. Resurrect, kill again. I killed him until the number of uses for his resurrection divine tattoo was completely exhausted. Orion's headless corpse finally plummeted to the ground. With a raise of my hand, the palm mark erupted with suction force. The Doomsday Chariot, Immortal Phoenix, and Archangel Armor 3 top-tier divine tattoos all fell into my hands. Silas, don't kill them anymore. I have something to tell you. Elena suddenly rushed out, trembling all over. She tightly hugged the 3-year-old little girl in her arms. This is your daughter. Are you going to kill her too? The entire net was in an uproar. Everyone watching the live stream in the Crimson Triangle was completely dumbfounded. I narrowed my eyes slightly. No wonder she looked familiar. 3 years ago at that penthouse party, she indeed came looking for me proactively. Is that so? I raised my hand, directly plucking a strand of hair from the little girl through the air, and tossed it along with one of my own to Titan. Take this to the lab for an expedited DNA test. If it's my seed, except for the mother and daughter, kill the rest, everyone. The old patriarch of the Vance family broke down, cursing Elena as the disgrace of the family. Finding him too noisy, I flicked a blade of air, directly slicing off his head. 2 hours later, Titan returned with the report. Similarity, 99.99. It was indeed my flesh and blood. Black fire flashed in my palm, and the appraisal document turned to ash. Take the child away. The upcoming scene will be too bloody. After Elena walked far away holding the child, my eyes turned cold. Chop them all. In just a dozen seconds, the over 70 members of the Vance family were reduced to a river of blood. I didn't immediately go hug my daughter, not because I was cold-blooded, but because I had just keenly sensed something wrong. Hidden in the dark, an extremely obscure and venomous gaze was staring dead at me. I suspected someone had tampered with my daughter, namely that soul annihilation curse mark. As long as I got close, something would absolutely happen. For my daughter's safety, I could only pretend to be indifferent, turn around, and leave. Half an hour later, I appeared in the government's highest conference hall. The 3 heads of the federal military had been waiting for a long time. I didn't exchange any pleasantries, directly pointing at the alien ancient ruin on the light curtain. In 2 days, the ruin's light curtain will dissipate. In this tech city hides the ultimate secret for ordinary humans to awaken divine tattoos. The 3 men gasped sharply, their eyes instantly turning red. But this thing will fly away from Earth in 2 months. I crushed my cigar, the battle intent in my eyes burning wildly. Assemble all the Tier 7 North American mutant giant bears in the country and send them to the Crimson Triangle. We're going to fight a hard battle. The government heads didn't hesitate at all, immediately issuing the nation's highest level conscription order. Dozens of mutant divine beast grizzly bears, massive as mountains, let out forest-shattering roars in the night, marching majestically toward the Crimson Triangle. With the army dispatched, I wasn't idle either. I headed straight for the White Star Group headquarters to settle old scores. As soon as I landed, the battle had already ended. Titan escorted a seductively dressed woman over. Boss, Orion's remnants are all cleared out. This woman is the general manager here, deliberately inflating grain prices to profiteer from the national disaster. What do we do? The woman's face was deathly pale, dropping to her knees and kowtowing madly. Boss Silas. I'm just a wage earner. It was all Orion forcing me. A female secretary beside her rushed out, pointing at her nose and cursing. Bullshit. I know best just how blackheart you are. Too lazy to listen to the nonsense. My eyes turned cold. Kill her. Squelch. Titan didn't even give the woman a chance to beg for mercy, shattering her skull with one slap. The corpse was thrown to the side of the road like a torn gunny sack. I turned to look at that female secretary. What's your name? Are you familiar with the White Star Group's channels? She trembled with excitement, replying to Boss Silas. My name is Jessica. I know all the channels inside out. I am willing to work like a horse or an ox for you. Alright, go coordinate with Wade. From now on, you're in charge here. After dealing with these scumbags, I took my men back to the Central Western Villa. Just after landing, Titan rubbed his hands together, acting coy as he came up. I laughed and cursed. Why is a rough guy acting like a little girl? Here, my forehead lit up, and the evolved Doomsday Chariot Divine tattoo held out, smashing heavily into the center of Titan's brows. Being fiercely protective of my own is my Silas rule. When Orion, that mad dog, went berserk, Titan didn't take a half step back even knowing he would die. I absolutely will not mistreat a brother like that. As the divine tattoo entered his body, terrifying energy tides exploded around Titan. On his chest, the heaven-defying mark of 6 nightmare horses burning with hellfire pulling a bronze chariot suddenly surfaced. He excitedly pounded his chest madly. Thanks, boss. This power is too fucking violent. I patted his shoulder. Save some strength. That mysterious city in the Crimson Triangle is about to open. There will be times for you to kill to your heart's content. Turning to enter the house, I looked at Rainer, who was still unconscious on the sofa. This brother had been running with me for 6 years. I directly pulled the Immortal Phoenix and Ifrit Balrog Armor Dual Divine tattoos from my forehead and forcefully infused them into his sea of consciousness. Whoever touches my brothers dies. This is my bottom line. After eating lunch, I went straight to the base's backyard to find that big guy who couldn't sit still. A super beast standing 700 meters tall was napping by the wall. It was exactly the Tier 8 peak mutated North American grizzly, Goliath. I leaped into the air, hovering in front of its massive head. Little Goliath, want to go out for some training? Whoever wins is the boss. Roar. Goliath roared, flipping over the wall and following me to charge out of the base. The two of us smashed into each other directly in the wasteland. The earth cracked madly, and air waves flipped the forest. 3 minutes later, the dust settled. I comfortably straddled the grizzly's neck, holding a cigar in my hand. This 700 metal overlord-level giant beast was now beaten black and blue by me, with not a shred of temper left, obediently carrying me back. I patted its furry skull. Don't be depressed. The day after tomorrow, it'll take you to the Crimson Triangle for a gang fight. When the time comes, beat them to death for me. Upon hearing there was a fight, Goliath's eyes instantly lit up, nodding excitedly like crazy. The night was as dark as ink. A blood moon hung in the sky. In the Crimson Triangle area, the earth shook and the mountains swayed. Boom! An earth-shattering roar echoed. The entire surface tore apart madly, and the hub city of the ancient Terran Empire, which had slumbered underground for hundreds of millions of years, thoroughly broke out of the ground. This city was simply a sci-fi monster, covering an area of at least 300,000 to 400,000 square kilometers. The towering steel walls stretched endlessly out of sight, and thick white fog completely blocked all vision. The whole city had only one magnificent city gate facing east, wide open. Within a radius of several hundred kilometers, hundreds of thousands of half-human, half-beast Sea Clan armies, as well as top-tier divine tattoo awakeners from various countries, were densely packed together. No one dared to take the first step. Everyone was waiting for the bird that sticks its head out. In a corner, the black-robed person from the Void Warlocks and his disciple stared dead at the city gate. These two old schemers had tracked me all the way, calculating to jump out and steal my divine tattoos when I was heavily injured and dying from fighting my way into the city. Their abacus was clacking loudly. It was simply laughable. Look, what kind of monster is that? Someone yelled at the top of their lungs, and a million living beings simultaneously turned their heads to look east. On the horizon, lightning exploded. A 700 metal armored grizzly bear crushed mountain ranges, sprinting wildly. Behind it followed an army of over 100 Tier 7 peak giant bears, each like a small mountain. What made scalps tingle even more was behind them. An army of 400,000 hundred-meturtle mutated violent apes surged out from the Yellowstone exclusion zone. They were uniformly clad in heavy divine tattoo armor that blinded the eyes, carrying metal battle staffs, their murderous aura piercing the sky. The leading Titan Silverback wore dark Titan armor, carrying a destruction warhammer, flattening a mountain peak with a single stomp. This was the absolute ace unit I had subdued yesterday by taking a trip to the Yellowstone exclusion zone using the Dark Titan Divine Tattoo. And I sat upright on the Azura throne suspended high in the clouds. Black Dragon, Great Demon God, Hatestriple Emperor armor equipped. Red, black, and gray tricolor auras tore through the canopy. With twin dragons coiling behind me, beneath the demon god faceplate, I coldly looked down at this group of ants at my feet. The entire venue fell dead silent. A million sea beasts were so terrified they didn't even dare breathe. My fingers lightly tapped the throne's armrest, my gaze crossing the crowd, locking dead onto the Boreal Empire faction. That Valerie, who previously wanted to hunt me, was now shaking like a sieve. Valerie. My voice wasn't loud, yet it exploded like thunder in everyone's ears. Take your people and roll inside to scout the way. Whether you can stay alive depends on how tough your fate is. How could he dare say half a no? Gritting his teeth, he took nearly 10,000 boreal elites and bit the bullet to charge into the hub city. I then turned my head, looking at the army of hundreds of thousands of sea beasts, my voice carrying an unquestionable deathly stillness. You all also roll inside for me. If you don't enter, die right now. The Tier 10 alien sea beast leader crushed his teeth, but not daring to utter a single word of complaint, dejectedly led the army of hundreds of thousands of sea beasts, surging mightily into the city gate. They had absolutely no idea that at this moment, deep in the universe, an ultimate live broadcast involving hundreds of billions of alien lifeforms had begun. The Pancosmic Nexus, the most awesome broadcasting hub in the whole universe. Right now, countless powerful alien races were staring at me on the screen. Just a moment ago, a blood-red official announcement violently popped up at the top of the stream. Beat. Scan complete. The living being on the throne is equipped with triple Tier 7 Emperor armors. Potential index, 10,000 stars. The entire universe instantly exploded. The eyeballs of hundreds of billions of alien old monsters all dropped to the floor. What was the concept of 10,000 stars? Back in the day, the ruler of the Terran Empire, who swept across the universe and slaughtered the myriad races like dogs, only had a potential of 6,000 stars. Breaking through 4,000 stars made you a cosmic overlord. My 10,000 stars directly smashed the universe's cognitive limits to pieces. All the powerful cosmic races that had been brutally beaten by the Terran Empire were sweating profusely from terror, their killing intent surging to the skies. But I didn't care about any live broadcast at all. In my eyes, there was only slaughter. An hour passed, and the hundreds of thousands of sea beasts that entered the city didn't even make a bubble. I slowly stood up from the throne, stretching my neck. Let's go. Time to meet whatever is inside. The Grand Army crashed into the city alongside me. Just after passing through the city gates, what lay before our eyes was purgatory on Earth. The hundreds of thousands of sea beasts and boreal elites were being hacked into a floor of shredded meat by 800 Maturtle Royal Praetorian bots. Blood gathered into rivers. Valerie and the Sea Clan leader risked their old lives to barely take down two, and were now forced into a dead end. Boss, these iron lumps are too hard. We can't hold them off. Hunter rushed up to land a slash, only to be smashed directly by a club, sent flying over 100 meters, vomiting blood wildly. That group of surviving cannon fodder saw me enter and ran over howling and crying as if seeing their own father. The robot's electronic eyes flashed red, instantly locking onto me. 7 heavy-tech thermal guns were raised, and laser beams as thick as water tanks swept toward me like a rainstorm. I didn't even bother dodging. Exerting force beneath my feet, the ground instantly blasted open into a 100-meter-deep crater, turning into a Redan-black lightning bolt. I supported a tricolor calamity light shield in front of me with one hand. Tanking the sky-filling laser artillery, I forcefully smashed through the sound barrier and instantly arrived right in the face of the leading robot. Get lost. The blood spear in my palm erupted with 100-jong black thunder. My single arm exerted force, muscles bulging high. The blood spear, carrying the terrifying power to pierce stars, thrust straight through the leading robot's chest. Boom! The massive steel body exploded on the spot into a sky full of scrap iron. 2 robots beside it swung their tech battle blades, cleaving toward my head from the left and right. I sneered, my figure advancing instead of retreating. The twin black dragons behind me roared out, opened their abyssal giant mouths, and with a crunch, bit dead onto the descending blades. Then, with a violent flick, they smashed the 200 Maturtle steel behemoths into midair. Demon God Calamity Light. Die! I raised my left hand high, converging a blood-colored calamity light capable of illuminating everything in my palm. The light pillar shot into the sky, directly blasting the 2 robots in midair into ashes. The entire venue fell dead silent. A Tier 7 fighting Tier 10 Emperor armors? In my dictionary, the phrase killing monsters above your level doesn't exist. There is only crushing. I dug out 7 massive energy cores from the robot wreckage, casually tossing them to the black dragons behind me to chew on. Crispy and crunchy. Boom! The light of the triple armors skyrocketed, directly breaking through to Tier 7 peak right on the spot. The bullet comments in the universal stream instantly cleared out. 100 billion living beings trembled across the screen. Leveling up just by killing monsters? What kind of perverted hack is this? I didn't bother watching Hunter and the others clean up the remaining mob. All alone, I killed my way toward the 300-story hub building at the very center of the first zone. The robots guarding the door surprisingly didn't attack me, proactively making way instead. I took the elevator straight to the top 300th floor, kicking open the door to the general office. In the empty room, the holographic projector on the desk suddenly lit up. A middle-aged man wearing a black 12-star military uniform, his face full of slaughtering aura, floated before my eyes. Hello, new human. I am the 12-star commander-in-chief of the ancient Terran Empire, General Maxwell. He looked at me, his eyes carrying a gratification that spanned hundreds of millions of years. Next, he tossed out an earth-shattering secret that made my blood boil. The former Terran Empire was outrageously strong. The myriad races could only act as dogs under their feet. The oppressed 10 great cosmic powers allied in rebellion, shattering the entire Milky Way, Yet they were still slaughtered by the Terran Empire until they threw away their armor and fled. But who knew? The leader of the Void Warlocks went insane, directly sacrificing 80% of their entire clan's population to plant the most unsolvable void curse in the entire universe onto the Terran Empire's rulers. The Invincible Empire didn't die on the battlefield, but died under this venomous curse. Maxwell stared dead at me. The old empire is gone, but we left all our heritage in the hub city. You only have 2 months to fight through all 9 zones and take down the core city. Otherwise, the entire city will self-destruct, and the hope of Earth will be turned to ashes along with it. The spatial ring on the desk is my welcoming gift to you. Take it, and let Earth's new empire trample on the heads of the myriad races once again. As his voice fell, Maxwell's afterimage turned into motes of light and completely dissipated. I walked up, picked up that black gold ring from the desk, and fiercely probed it with my mental energy. Even though I was used to seeing grand scenes, my heart pounded wildly at this moment. In the vast space, neatly arranged, were over 1,000 high-tier divine tattoos radiating heaven-defying pressure. Behind them, millions of top-grade energy crystal cores were piled up, their light illuminating the entire space. I pulled out a chair and sat down, lit a cigar, took a deep drag, and exhaled thick smoke rings. I raised my head, my eyes bone-chillingly cold, as if piercing through the roof, looking directly into the hundreds of billions of fearful eyes in deep space. Everyone, rest in peace. I violently crushed the cigar out on the desk. You exit the stage and I step on. The old empire falls and the new empire I will build. Just as the words fell, the office door was pushed open. Titan, Hunter, and Phoenix strode in. Looking at them, without a second word, I directly pulled out 2 extremely violent energy marks from that black gold ring left by Maxwell. These were the top-tier divine tattoos of the old Empire Tier 10 Peak, Seraphim, and Astral Valkyrie. Take them, fuse them. I tossed the divine tattoos to Hunter and Phoenix. Hunter's eyes glowed green. He slapped the Seraphim divine tattoo right into the center of his brows. Ah, boss, I can't take it. The moment the divine tattoo entered his body, Hunter let out a tragic scream. His little bit of potential simply couldn't suppress the domineering power of the Seraphim. The skin all over his body cracked madly like porcelain, blood spurting wildly, and he looked like he was about to disintegrate on the spot. With a cold face, I took a step forward, firmly pressing my hand down on his shoulder. That mysterious gray-white mark on my palm instantly activated, shooting bizarre light forcefully into his limbs and bones, forcibly crushing that violent energy dead into his meridians. Hold it the fuck in for me. As I exerted force, Hunter's tragic screams abruptly stopped. He snapped his eyes open and roared at the heavens. Boom! A set of domineering armor, alternating silver and white and flowing with iridescent light, crashed onto his body. Countless profound patterns flowed over its surface, and the pressure emanating from just a breath crushed the surrounding air to dust. The Seraphim armor, complete. Immediately following that, with my help, Phoenix also successfully fused with the Astral Valkyrie armor. A flowing battle armor interwoven with silver, gray, and blue clung to her entire body, its aura of slaughter shooting into the sky. I retracted my hand, pointing out the window. Go. Use the guards of the second zone for target practice. Hunter laughed maniacally, carrying the Seraphim long spear, crashing straight through the glass and rushing out. Less than 10 minutes later, the surveillance feed came back. 3 Tier 12 humanoid robotic guards in the second zone were being overwhelmingly beaten by Hunter all alone. The long spear produced hundreds of afterimages, every thrust lethal, turning those 3 steel monsters into sieves in just a few strikes. This battle was synchronized in real time across the entire universe through the pancosmic nexus. The 100 billion alien viewers in front of their screens went completely numb. The 10 great cosmic powers instantly had their mental defenses broken, madly clamoring to descend on Earth and eradicate us by the roots. They knew all too well how miserably the Seraphim and Valkyrie had slaughtered them back in the day. I couldn't be bothered with how these extraterrestrial monkeys howled. After sending my subordinates away, I stayed alone in the general office, beginning to fuse the ultimate trump card of the old empire's Commander Sovereign Dragon armor. Red, black, and purple tricolor light shot into the sky. 22 lifelike dragon patterns wildly entangled my limbs and bones, and dark gold emperor patterns pierced through my entire body. The moment I put on the hideous dragon helmet with twin horns, I felt the power within my body could directly tear the sky apart. But this wasn't enough. I was going to play big. Gritting my teeth, I once again activated the bizarre mark on my palm, forcefully tearing off the black dragon divine tattoo on my left shoulder and forcibly stuffing it into the sovereign dragon armor. Fuse for me. Boom! Flesh and blood tore open behind the armor, and 2 mechanical black dragon heads, covered in dark gold mecha scales and filled with fangs, broke out of the armor. The mechanical dragon eyes, 1 gold and 1 red, revealed extreme brutality. Tier 11 peak, sovereign abyssal dragon armor, completely formed. Combat power doubled on the spot. Right at this moment, the optical computer on the desk let out an ear-piercing alarm. Detected that extraterrestrial platforms are peering into the hub city. Do you wish to shield? I snorted coldly. Shield the entire city. Let them look at nothing but shit. Instantly, the hub city erupted with terrifying white light that shot straight into the clouds. The live broadcast screens across the universe went black on the spot, making hundreds of billions of alien old monsters jump in anger. Just as I walked out out the door, North, a survivor of the demon race from planet Tartarus, dropped to his knees before me, kowtowing 3 times loudly. Boss Silas, my clan is being massively slaughtered by the cosmic powers. They are sacrificing my clansmen, attempting to forcefully cross the gates of hell and descend on Earth. Please take me in. I am willing to die for you. I looked down at him. Fine, it'll keep you to explain the cosmic situation to me. Afterward, I took him to inspect the second zone. Hunter and the others reported that an incoherent, crazy old man was lying on the street. I went over and took a glance. The old man's hair was disheveled, constantly shouting the Empire's majesty tolerates no invasion. Kill all you monkeys. Judging from the terrifying life force seeping from his body, he was absolutely an ultra-hightier powerhouse who had survived from the old empire. But I had no time to deal with him now, because the optical computer in the first zone forcefully pulled up the external surveillance projections. Something huge had happened. In the projection feed, the sky over the federal capital had been completely burned through by a sea of fire. The peerless genius of the astral pantheon, the pride of the titan god Clanatlashad, descended. This piece of trash didn't value human life at all. Suspended in the sky above the capital, he raised a single hand over his head, condensing a purple-gold energy sphere hundreds of zhang large, and smashed it down like throwing out the trash. Boom! A dual-colored mushroom cloud covering hundreds of miles rose from the ground. Violent energy storms instantly swept through the entire city. Skyscrapers melted like plastic toys, and tens of millions of people evaporated into ash on the ground before they could even let out a scream. In just a few minutes, for super cities with populations of 10 million were completely flattened by him in this manner. Nearly 100 million living beings died tragically. He was taking revenge for the Titan God clan being wiped out by the Terran Empire back in the day. He wanted to end our bloodline completely today. Staring dead at the sea of fire on the screen, my eyes instantly filled with blood, my killing intent cracking the floor beneath my feet. Wanna play genocide, huh? I gnashed my teeth. I'll fulfill your wish today. Boom! Directly tearing through the void, I turned into a black lightning bolt, instantly descending into the sky above the flaming ruins of the capital. Atlas had just finished chugging a health potion. Looking up, he bumped right into me. He hefted his titan halberd, pointed it at my nose, and laughed maniacally. I destroyed this city. I'll chop you up too today. Before his voice died away, he turned into a meteor, the halberd carrying the terrifying power to split the heavens as it smashed straight toward my skull. I stood where I was, not even dodging. Slowly, I raised my left hand. Bang! A muffled thud. That battle halberd carrying world-destroying power was caught dead in midair by my single hand. No matter how much force he used, the halberd couldn't press down even a single millimeter. Atlas' eyes nearly popped out. This is impossible. A frog in a well, yet you dare come to the lower realm to act wild? My gaze was cold and severe. Exerting force abruptly, I yanked him in front of me. My right fist condensed the power of 10,000 roaring dragons, tearing through the air, and smashed viciously into his chest. Crack! The tier 11 holy armor he was so proud of shattered on the spot. He flew backward like a kite with a broken string, spewing fresh blood wildly, his sternum completely shattered. Backhanded, I snatched his battle halberd and hurled it fiercely like throwing a javelin. Bang! The halberd precisely pierced through his armor wreckage, nailing him dead in midair. Taking a step forward, I instantly flashed in front of him, grabbing him by the neck. You like massacring cities, right? My voice was as cold as ice dregs. The left black dragon behind me let out a wild roar, biting down on his left arm in one bite, forcefully tearing it off, chewing it in large bites. Ah! Atlas let out a heart-tearing, lung-splitting tragic scream. Immediately following that, the right black dragon bit off his right arm in one bite. Blood sprayed wildly, but I immediately used my mental energy to seal his wounds dead, absolutely refusing to let him bleed out and die a quick death. You beasts of the cosmos, watch clearly. I roared at the void. The universal live stream boiled over once again, countless aliens terrified until their hands and feet went cold. This is the consequence of angering me. If you dare kill a single person of my race, I will slaughter my way through your entire starry sky. Having said that, I extended 2 fingers covered in dragon armor spikes and tore out Atlas' eyes alive. Blood shot out, and his tragic screams echoed through the clouds. Right at this moment, a gargantuan black vortex suddenly cracked open in the firmament above. The highly oppressive sound of gears turning rang out. The highest authority of the astral pantheon couldn't sit still anymore. Spending an astronomical price, they requested the pancosmic nexus to open a singularity wormhole, intending to forcefully rescue Atlas. 9 pitch-black chains of laws shot out from the wormhole, firmly entangling Atlas, who had been reduced to a human stick, dragging him toward the black hole. Trying to leave, just as I was about to act, a gray-black ray of destructive death light suddenly erupted from the direction of the hub city. This was the main optical computer's defensive counterattack. The death light crossed 10,000 miles, landing a perfect shot, instantly blasting that unimaginably expensive singularity wormhole into a sky full of light rain. Screaming tragically, Atlas fell back into my hands. Immediately following that, a holographic projection popped up in front of me. The cold face of the High Priestess Selene of the God Clan surfaced. I am Selene. Let him go. I will pay whatever price you ask for. Her voice was high and mighty. I sneered, whatever price is fine. Then have someone bring your head in exchange. The universal live stream exploded instantly. This was a top-tier cosmic bigwig, and I was actually telling her to slit her own throat in public. Celine's face turned green. Young man, don't fail to appreciate favors. If you dare kill him, my astral pantheon will rest only when one of us is dead. Rest only when one of us is dead. If you have the guts, roll down here right now and kill me. Having spoken, I couldn't be bothered to listen to her nonsense anymore. The black dragon behind me tore off a large chunk of flesh and blood from Atlas in one bite. Dragging this half-dead piece of trash, I directly turned into a stream of light, descending on the Atlantic's Bermuda Triangle. That was the starry sky portal connected to planet Tartarus. All extraterrestrial powers had to descend to Earth through here. With a backhand, I summoned the Azura throne, sitting majestically in the void, stepping on Atlas like a dead dog. Splash! Water splashed everywhere. Over a dozen Tier 12 extraterrestrial powerhouses who had just crossed the portal burst out of the sea surface. Before they could figure out the situation, they were locked onto by the black dragons behind me. Run! Their souls flew away in terror, turning to flee. But it was simply too late. The black dragons turned into black lightning, taking them out one bite at a time, chewing heads and armor alike into pieces. Headless corpses fell into the sea like dumplings. I stared coldly at that stargate leading to deep space, my voice mixed with thunder spreading across the entire universe. Come, you extraterrestrial monkeys, come over as much as you please. On behalf of all humanity on Earth, I wait for you to come seeking death. Sitting on the throne, stepping on Atlas, I blocked the airspace above the Bermuda gates of hell just like that. After consecutively killing dozens of extraterrestrial powerhouses who popped their heads out, the myriad races were thoroughly terrified by my slaughter, and no one dared to come seeking death anymore. That intolerably arrogant high priestess of the astral pantheon didn't even dare let out another fart. Just as I was getting impatient from waiting, Hunter and Phoenix flew back in a burning hurry. Boss, all 9 war zones have been taken down, but at the 10th Sandmeter Tech bridgehead leading to the core city, there's a robot wearing golden armor. Its aura is too terrifying. We don't even have the courage to make a move. I kicked Atlas' ruined body away and stood up from the throne. Keep watching here. If any extraterrestrial monkey dares to pop their head out, kill without mercy. They'll personally go meet it. Turning into a black stream of light, I instantly smashed onto the 10th Sandmeter Tech bridge of the 9th war zone. At the end of the bridgehead, a majestic golden robot held a giant sword, like a deity ruling over life and death. The main optical computer prompted that what it wore was the old Empire's second-ranked 30-layer top-tier Divine Tattoo Supreme Pantheon armor, a perverted thing that required at least 5,600 stars of potential to even have the qualifications to fuse. These old fossils, the threshold they set was truly fucking high. Without any nonsense, the Emperor Dragon Demon armor ran at full power. The Blood Dragon spear erupted with 10,000 streaks of black thunder, tearing through the air and thrust straight toward its face. The golden robot's eyes flashed explosively, and 9 beam heavy swords appeared out of thin air. Gripping a sword with one hand, it delivered a heavy cleave onto my blood dragon spear. The remaining 8 flying swords turned into golden lightning, madly strangling the 2 black dragons behind me. Clang, bang, boom. Spear and sword collided madly, the violent shockwaves like hundreds of nukes detonating simultaneously. The entire sky above the hub city was torn apart by firelight. Fighting from the sky to the ground, buildings trembled and space distorted. This Pantheon armor was absurdly hard. Every sword strike carried the judgment pressure of heaven's punishment. Throwing caution to the wind, I directly crushed a primordial great demon god crest, my power skyrocketing and doubling on the spot. The blood spear, carrying the roar of 10,000 dragons, forcefully ground its defenses to pieces and pierced right through its chest. But in the final second before it fell, its most lethal sword of Damocles also turned into an absolute kill stream of light, viciously piercing my heart, nailing me dead to the metal floor of the plaza. My whole body was charred black, the Emperor Dragon Demon armor full of cracks, demonic energy mixed with death energy surging out wildly, and even the black dragons behind me had one head severed. At this moment, I looked just like a corpse that had grown cold. Right at this moment, the extraterrestrial rats hiding in the dark observing finally couldn't hold back anymore. A brother and sister from the deep-sea Atlanteans jumped out. The brother's face was full of wild joy, thinking he had picked up a massive bargain. Holding a trident, he walked up to me. Ha ha ha, today I'm going to personally chop off your head and make it a chamber pot for the myriad races of the starry sky. The sister beside him was still broadcasting live to the entire universe, preparing to record this universe-shaking moment. You want to chop off my head? My bone-chillingly cold voice came out from beneath the helmet with a broken dragon horn. The Atlantean brother's eyes widened abruptly, like seeing a ghost. Before he could react, I grabbed the sword of Damocles thrust into my chest with one hand and forcefully yanked it out. With a squelch, I pierced it straight through his heart. Wasn't it better to stay hidden? Even if I am heavily injured, I'm not something an ant like you can shake. I twisted my wrist and decapitated him with one sword strike. Blood surged wildly like a fountain. The sister recording next to him collapsed to the ground in terror, trembling all over and begging for mercy madly as she backed away. Without any politeness, I stepped forward and with a backhand sword strike, cleaved both her and the optical computer into 2 halves. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, collecting the Pantheon Emperor crest dropped by the robot. Dragging my broken armor, I strode toward the 600-story hub building towering into the clouds at the center of the city. At the door doors of the building, 2 Tier 30 machine guards scanned and confirmed I was human, letting me pass directly. Just upon entering the lobby, a holographic projection of a beautiful AI, Ava, came up to greet me. Hello, new human. To enter the top floor general office, you must undergo precise testing by the instruments. Only if your potential index is qualified can you proceed. I directly stepped onto the testing platform. Blue light scanned over my entire body from top to bottom. The instrument screen flashed madly, directly jumping out a line of blinding blood-red text. Race human. Potential index, 11,253 stars. Unprecedented. The first person since the creation of the universe. AI Ava looked completely dumbfounded, standing frozen in place, unable to calm down for a long time. Looking across the entire universe, even 6,000 stars could make one a cosmic overlord. My 11,000 plus stars had thoroughly exceeded this machine's cognitive capacity. The elevator went straight to the 600th floor. Pushing open the heavy metal doors of the general office, what greeted my eyes was an extremely luxurious, massive space. I sat majestically in the main office chair. The main optical computer on the desk activated instantly, projecting a stalwart man wearing a black 12-star military uniform and wearing Emperor star medals on his shoulders. The Lord of the ancient Terran Empire. He looked at me with a profound gaze, his tone revealing the regret and madness of a generation's supreme overlord falling from grace. He told me that back in the day, single-handedly, he fought the 10 strongest ancient ancestors of the starry sky alone. Slaughtering for a full 3 years, he forcefully slayed 7 of them despite being heavily injured. Just as he was about to unify the universe, the old ancestor of the Void Warlocks, at the cost of self-immolation and sacrificing 90% of his clansmen, planted the most unsolvable void curse in prehistoric history onto him. The entire 6.8 billion human race on Earth was wiped out because of this venomous curse. Kid, I don't care what your name is, remember my words. When dealing with extraterrestrial races, there must be absolutely no mercy. In the ring on the desk is the ultimate armor I forged using the power of my entire nation, the 42-layer Abyssal Overlord armor. If you don't have 8,000 stars of potential, absolutely do not attempt to fuse it, or you will be courting your own destruction. On my behalf, on behalf of the entire old empire, conquer this vast starry sky. The projection slowly dissipated, turning into a sky full of motes of light. I lit a cigar, took a deep drag, and exhaled thick smoke. Don't worry, towards livestock, I absolutely have no mercy. The main optical computer Odysseus was officially bound. It immediately reported to me that the void black-robed person who had been tracking me brought Sylvia and his disciple into the city and was right downstairs. Send the weakest Praetorian guard to trap them first. After I finished changing my gear, I'll personally crush these 3 ants to death. I picked up the black gold ring from the desk, probing it with my mental energy. Inside, besides 9 exclusive Emperor crests for the grisly divine beasts, there was only that black gold Abyssal Overlord Emperor crest. Surrounded by 42 Emperor rings, it emitted a cosmic pressure that made one suffocate. Needs 8,000 stars of potential to fuse? I have over 11,000 stars. What the hell should I be afraid of? I directly drew the Overlord Emperor crest to the center of my brows, a crazy idea exploding in my mind. I fiercely activated the bizarre mark on my palm, forcefully pressing the strongest Emperor crest together with my Sovereign Dragon crest to fuse them. The gray-white bizarre power instantly erupted, tightly enveloping the 2 extreme Emperor crests. 10 minutes later, the fusion was successful. A brand new black gold mark hovered in my palm. 65-layer Abyssal Sovereign Dragon armor. Exactly 12 Emperor rings surrounded it, and 23 dark gold dragon souls roared inside. The aura it emanated directly crushed the air in the office into a vacuum. Boss, how did you do that? Main optical computer Odysseus shrieked directly. 65 layers. 10,000 stars of potential absolutely cannot withstand it. Then let's try it and see. I laughed maniacally, directly slapping this ultimate dragon crest into the center of my brows, forcefully fusing it into my body. Boom! The moment the mark entered my body, a terrifying, world-destroying power of extremes erupted with a boom inside me. I didn't even last a single second. The clothes on my body instantly turned to powder. The skin all over my body cracked inch by inch, and blood shot out like a fountain, instantly dyeing me into a blood man. The intense pain of impending explosion directly tore through my soul. Blood vessels burst madly, and my bones were crushed inch by inch under this violent power. This power was too domineering, so domineering that even the bizarre mark on my palm didn't have time to react and repair. My vision rapidly darkened, and I completely lost even the strength to keep my eyelids open. I slumped dead in the office chair, fresh blood dyeing the floor red. Boss, stop! You'll explode and die. Odysseus yelled madly in my mind, its voice full of despair, but I was completely unable to respond. Breathing stopped, heartbeat stopped, vital signs completely reset to 0. My consciousness plunged into an absolutely pitch-black, soundless, endless abyss. Did I just die like this? My empire hasn't even been built yet, and it's ending just like this? Outside the hub building, the azure planetary ring originally enveloping the dome instantly extinguished completely along with the disappearance of my vital signs. The robot guard unit surrounding Sylvia and the black-robed person also directly retreated because they lost their commands. The black-robed person saw the planetary planetary ring extinguish, fled in wild joy, and directly posted bullet comments in the universal livestream to spread rumors. That 10,000 star guy from Earth forcefully fused 2 sets of Emperor armors and exploded to death on the spot. Everyone come quickly to grab territory. The entire universe boiled over completely. Hunter, Phoenix, and Titan rushed into the top floor office like crazy people. Seeing me lying on the large bed, pale as paper and covered in blood, Hunter broke down directly, let out a loud roar, and fainted dead away. Phoenix cried heart-tearingly and lung-splittingly, but they refused to bury me even if they died. Titan, his eye sockets red, took the lead in locking down the news of my death, standing dead guard in the hub city. In a flash, a month passed. After I died, the myriad extraterrestrial races, like mad dogs smelling blood, descended upon Earth by the millions. Earth mutated completely. The first folded sealed space Eden broke out of the ground in the Alps mountain range. Inside, it was like a prehistoric fairyland. Towering divine trees that dozens of people couldn't wrap their arms around blotted out the sky, and the ground was full of heavenly treasures that could elevate potential and evolve divine tattoos with just one bite. The divine tattoo awakeners of the myriad races fought until their eyes went red inside. Deep in the folded space, the streamer Lexi had just snatched 3 divine tattoo fruits when she was doggedly pursued by a Tier 21 mutated iron griffin. At the critical moment, a resplendent sword light cleaved down across the sky, and the Iron Griffin was decapitated on the spot. The person who struck was surprisingly Orion, who had been chopped into 8 pieces by me and resurrected. He wore the brand new 26-layer Excalibur armor, staring dead at Lexi, probing madly. Silas hasn't shown his face for over a month. Is he completely dead long ago? Today I'll send you all down to see him. Lexi sneered coldly, her face full of mockery. To deal with ants like you, are you even worthy of having our boss act personally? If you have the guts, try touching me once, and see if you survive past an hour. After saying that, she turned and left, without even looking back. Orion was actually bluffed. His fear of me had been carved into his bones. Looking at Lex's back, he actually didn't dare to draw his sword. At this time, in the bedroom on the 600th floor of the hub city, my paleospaper body still lay quietly on the large bed. Suddenly, that mysterious mark on my palm, which had been silent for a month, violently erupted with a blinding gray-white light. The light swam madly along my meridians. Shattered internal organs reorganized instantly, and dried-up blood vessels surged anew with boiling fresh blood. My pale skin recovered its bloody color at a visible rate. Thud, thud, thud. The heart that had been silent for a month emitted a massive booming sound like the beating of war drums. Boundless life force revived madly within my body. A pressure of the ultimate extreme, 10 times, 100 times more terrifying than before, erupted from my body with a boom. Even without summoning armor, this aura alone was enough to crush Tier 15 or 16 divine tattoo awakeners into powder. That consciousness that had plunged into the abyss was violently yanked back by this gray-white light. My finger twitched slightly. In the next second, my eyes snapped open, the profound gaze like a substantive abyss, directly pierced through the dome of the bedroom. Feeling the terrifying power within my body, sufficient to tear apart a star core barehanded, I slowly sat up, stretching my neck, which emitted popping sounds. The corners of my mouth curled into a bloodthirsty arc,